Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the anthem of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil kareem. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Glory be to thee, O most loving and compassionate creator of the heavens and the earth. And blessed be your name and exalted be your majesty. Praise be to thee, for you are indeed worthy of all praise. We praise thee, O Allah, for having bestowed honor and nobility on all human beings regardless of their race or class or status. Or you have said in the Quran, verily, we have bestowed honor and nobility on the children of Adam. We ask you, O most beneficent, to bless us with the capacity to accord each and every human being his or her due, his and her due honor and nobility regardless of external differences, and to overcome the destructive disease of racialism and racial intolerance. O all merciful and all forgiving, we acknowledge that our lapses and shortcomings and transgressions have been countless. And we beg you to forgive us and have mercy on us and to bless us with the capacity to live in obedience and submission to you. O Allah, fill our hearts with such fear of you as will come between us and acts of disobedience and lead us to such obedience as will bring us to your paradise, and such faith and certainty that the calamities of this world will be made easy for us by you. Let us enjoy our hearing, our sight, and our strength as long as we live, and do the same for those who inherit from us. Grant us our due from those who have wronged us, and help us against those who are hostile to us. O Allah, we thank you for the opportunity to be here to participate in this useful exercise of public consultation with the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and our beloved Mayor of San Fernando. Allah, we thank you for having inspired the Honorable Prime Minister to have a public consultation this evening here in San Fernando. We beg you, O Lord, to guide us all so that we can do the things that will benefit us all. May your mercy be with us always, and may you bless the Prime Minister with wisdom so that he will be able to do the things that will benefit all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. O Allah, we pray for guidance for all those who are entrusted with authority. Bless them. O Lord, bless them with wisdom so that the discussion that they may take will be benefit to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. O Allah, protect us all and bless us and have mercy on us and enable us to do good and to avoid evils. O Allah, help us to protect our faith and trust in you. Glory be to thee, O Allah, Lord of honor and power. Free are you. And peace be on all the prophets, and praise be to you, the Lord and cherisher of all the worlds. Sallallahu ta'ala ala khairi khalqihi wa nuri arshihi Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Ameen.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the city of San Fernando and to the auditorium of the San Fernando City Hall for the launch in the island-wide series of consultations on local government reform, which of course is conducted by and hosted by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. I am Nisa Pei, your MC for tonight's event. Thank you all for coming. We are broadcasting on national TV on CNMG at 8 p.m., but of course we're live on Radio 91.1 FM Talk City and on our YouTube channel, TT Local Matters. Amongst our guests and presenters tonight are Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Senator the Honorable Franklin Can. Awaiting his arrival, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, and Stuart Young, the Honorable Minister in the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. And last but not least, our live audience here in the city of San Fernando. We've also collected brief submissions from some of you who wanted to join the discussions on social media, of course via Facebook, Twitter, etc. And these comments and questions will be posed throughout the evening to our panel, and we look forward to those contributions. I take this opportunity to welcome His Worship Kazim Hussain, Mayor of this beautiful city on the hill. I'd like to personally thank the Mayor for generously welcoming us into his home and for all the pleasantries extended to our entire team. As we begin this evening, I present to you His Worship Kazim Hussain. As we await the arrival of the mayor, I'd just like to take the opportunity to remind you to please turn off or to silence any of your mobile devices, as well as when you come to the mic to make your contribution, stand as close to the mic as is humanly possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon. No, that's not good enough for San Fernando. Welcome. Good afternoon. In his absence, and I must say that before I actually start, which will be very short, that I give personal invitations to each household in San Fernando. I invited every community, the business community. Ms. Bartlett is here. The Taxi Drivers Association, the Scouting Association, the Residents Association, the market vendors. I invite Tooth Bagay, the business, everybody was invited. So nobody has no excuse, and it is shown here. Senator the Honorable Franklin Khan, Minister of Local Government, testimony is here that San Fernando is in full support of this local government reform. In his absence, the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Faris Alwari, Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago and Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, Senator, the Honorable Franklin Khan, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, and also my boss, the Honorable Mr. Randall Mitchell, Minister of Public Administration, Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, and my friend, San Fernando East. That is when you're following a speech. These things happen. Ms. Senator Sherry Ann Critchlow is not here as yet. Senator, the Honorable Stuart Young, the young Mr. Stuart Young, Minister in the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. Welcome to San Fernando. I know you are no stranger here. See, I just saw Minister Maxi Coffey, who is always on the television every Tuesday. Welcome to San Fernando, Minister of Communications. I want to welcome Maulana Mustaq Ahmad Suleimani from the Muslim faith. Mayors here, Master of Ceremonies, I would like you to have patience with me. As the first citizen, I must acknowledge these people, these distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Mayor of Port of Spain, Mr. Timke. Mayor of Arima, Mr. Hadid. Mayor of Chairman of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, Mayor of Mr. Anthony Roberts, Mr. Clyde Paul, Anthony Roberts, Sowell, Lavantil Regional, Mr. Clyde Paul, Point Forte Mayor, the mayor of, I call him the mayor of Toko, Mr. Terry Rondon. And after Mr. Khan finish with this reform, we will only have mayors in Trinidad. I want to acknowledge my friend Senator Daniel Duki. I have to recognize Ms. Joan Yule Williams, former ambassador and no stranger to San Fernando, chairman of the Diego Martin Corporation. Welcome, Ms. to San Fernando. And all you beautiful, the CEO of the San Fernando City Corporation, Mr. Indarjit Singh, all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, sorry if I can't remember everybody. A special mention to Mr. Andrew Gabriel, we have seen devolution here in this auditorium. Many of you all have come here before, and you have never seen nothing like this. So I want you to give the team a special round of applause for transforming. And this is what we call transformation. And this is what the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister of Local Government is doing to us and giving to us. Permanent secretaries, Ms. Destra Bascom and Isaac James, deputy permanent secretaries, all mayors, chairmen, my councillors and aldermen of the San Fernando City Corporation, citizens of this wonderful city of San Fernando, members of the media. Good afternoon. It is with great pleasure that I warmly welcome you here to the first consultation on local government reform. I am pleased that the city of San Fernando has been chosen as a starting point for this consultation. And as your first servant of this wonderful city since 2013, I have definitely seen the value of local government reform. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, well-wishers, devolution is the statutory granting of powers from central government to government at sub-national level, such as regional, local, or state level. It is decentralization. Devolved territories have the power to make legislation relevant to their area. I am sure that this will work for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and certainly we will see it working for our city in San Fernando. We believe that devolution will ensure that there is a greater development in the city of San Fernando. The proposed reform takes away the decision-making from central authority that is removed from our situation, and it is over to us, the people, to make these decisions. So as we take it from central government, it will be in our city. You, the people, will have the decision-making, similar to the TAJ model. It means that the people who are involved in situation can provide solutions for problems that arise. That means all of us working for one another the way normal San Fernandians do. It means that we are moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach in local government to an understanding that we know our problems in this city, that we are the people of San Fernando will be responsible and accountable for finding solutions. Can you imagine what great development that would take place in our city if our local contractors, entrepreneurs, and business, large and small, got the first shot at participating in the improvement of the city of San Fernando? Can you imagine how our city would flourish? We work together, we play together, we pray together. Some of us went to school together. Some of us marry into families that we know. Some of us lime in the same places. if we were responsible for the development of San Fernando? Can you imagine how many job opportunities would open up within our city, and more importantly, our citizens would have a very real say in the local development of the city? The things we can dream of for San Fernando, no one can dream for us. And what is more important is that we, the citizens of this wonderful city of San Fernando, have the energy, skills, and will put in the hand to work to make our dreams a reality. We all know that help from within a community invigorates a community and a country. Think of your family. Families in which helps come from within are strong families. Let us work together to invigorate our communities to make San Fernando strong. If San Fernando is not strong, Trinidad and Tobago cannot be strong. So we need to have the strength so we'll have a strong Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, devolution leads to development and expands the democratic process. We would see greater participation from all. You, the people, would have a better say and a stronger say in how your city is run. The participation process would be a richer experience because we would be participating in the development of our destiny. This reminds me of the words of our national anthem, with boundless faith in our destiny. With faith, you can do so much. Faith even makes the word impossible obsolete. My dear friends, it is a formula for prosperity. Devolution leads to greater development and improves in the democratic process. There is a win-win for everyone because everyone wins when the process of determining their future is put in the hands of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, as I close, I want to recognize the wife of the former Prime Minister, Mrs. Hazel Manning, who is in the audience. Mrs. Manning. Who has laid a foundation among others who have passed for this local government reform. I remember I was a councillor in 2003 to 2008. And Mrs. Manning brought out Embracing All. And we had the white paper and the green paper. And I was very excited about it. I made my own paper then and gave it to all my constituents at that time. Because I like to walk, I like to meet the people, and I like to report back to them. And I took the opportunity, Mrs. Manning, you remember, and I had your picture in my book. And I was proud to have it then. So I want to thank you for coming to share with us. And I would like to thank all of you for being here. We don't have any room outside. The chairs are all taken up. So this is what San Fernando is about. San Fernando is about participation. So in closing, I would like to thank you again, and we welcome your participation in helping the transition of local government reform in the hands of the people. And I want to assure you, Minister Franklin Khan, that the San Fernando City Corporation will give you the full support to ensure that before the next local government election, we will have this in place. Thank you very much, and thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Hussain. It's clear that both you and the city of San Fernando stand ready for the devolution. But why are we all here? What does local government mean to you? What does it mean to your families, to your communities, to your environment? Let's find out now.
Home sweet home. You grew up here, and with hard work, prayers, and dreams, you made this into the place where you raise your family. But 4 years ago, the river changed course. right after they cleared the land for that compound on the hill. We and the neighbors reported it to our councillor. Not under local jurisdiction. Waterways were not under the control of the corporation. Ministry of Works. No biggie. We went to the regional office. That began the trail. A trail of paper and taxi fares. Door after door. Letter after letter. A trail as long as the river itself, left wondering which was the real destructive force. This or the long and winding river of red-taped bureaucracy. It was now simply a question of which would get to us first.
Actually, I was waiting on that. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, and I hope it's very few, I am Franklin Khan, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. Welcome to the Consultations on Local Government Reform in Trinidad, and welcome to the San Fernando City Hall. And if I had known the crowd would have been so large, we'd have kept this at Sapa. But we will be guided in future reference. My thanks to His Worship, the Mayor of the City of San Fernando, Alderman Kazim Hussein, for hosting consultation in the series, and thank you all for coming out in such large numbers in supporting the consultative process that we are about to embark on. Ladies and gentlemen, the video you just saw illustrates a system and the dynamics that is not unfamiliar to most of us. Whether it's a river, a crack in the drain, an empty lot next door, delivering of social services to someone in need, a blown street light, medical care, school repairs, a heritage site, waste management, the list goes on and on. Under the current system, when a community needs to get something done, let me repeat that. Under the current system, when a community needs to get things done, it has to take place in one of the many clogged and narrow arteries that run to the centralized heart of government. These consultations are unique, ladies and gentlemen, in the sense that it is one of the few occasions that a public consultation in Trinidad and Tobago will look solely at Trinidad. The reason is quite simple. Tobago's local government machinery and service delivery systems have progressed well beyond that of Trinidad. And this is directly due to local government reform in the sister island and the new social contract that now exists between the Tobago House of Assembly and the citizens of Tobago. Looking at the Tobago experience, we now see that there is more that separates us than water. We are separated by a whole different system of service delivery. So that is not the sea, but just to create a pond, the whole bureaucracy that differentiates our local government landscape. And that is the fundamental difference between service delivery in the island of Tobago and in the island of Trinidad. Like many communities across Trinidad, Tobago used to have to come to central government for just about everything. However, with legislation passed in 1996, the Tobago House of Assembly was given legal and local authority and autonomy to change that situation. So today, ladies and gentlemen, using the Tobago model, Tobagonians no longer have to come to Port of Spain for most things, for a passport, so why should we? Tobagonians no longer have to rely on central government to maintain their cemeteries and their public spaces. Why should we? Tobagonians no longer have to come to Trinidad or to Port of Spain for a driver's permit, for a liquor license. Why should we? As a corporation, Tobago doesn't have to come to town to protect, preserve, promote their own heritage sites and their own tourism sites. So why should we? Because the THA Act number 40 of 1960 provided that autonomy for Tobago. Tobago now have some unique programs that we can learn from. TEMA, for example, the Tobago Emergency Management Authority, is one of the best run institutions in all of Trinidad and Tobago. We have our own disaster management unit which rolls out into the regional corporation, but it still has a lot of work to do in terms of their responsiveness when we compare that and juxtapose that to the Tobago Emergency Management Authority. The THA has instituted things like medical alert devices to 520 senior citizens in the island of Tobago. You just press a button if you need help, and it is relayed directly to the hospital, and an ambulance comes for you immediately. Sorry. They have also revolutionized social service delivery, where examples, young people suffering from abuse have a reporting line in which they can get help and get aid to social services delivery. These are just a few examples that illustrate the differences in our bureaucracy. Tobagonians, ladies and gentlemen, have the power to treat with their own community. Their unique culture, their unique way of life, why shouldn't we? Isn't there something called a San Fernandian? As distinct a Trinidadian is a San Fernandian, just as a Tobagonian feels he's distinct from Trinidad. So you have your own atmosphere, your own culture, your own space. So why can't you optimize the use of that holistic approach to development? And this is really what we will be exploring here this evening in this island-wide series of consultation. Carve your own space and create the developmental agenda and the cultural agenda for your own space. Local government reform. Let me deal with some of the background to this thing. Since 1962, successive administrations have researched, tracked, discussed, consulted, what have you, with the public on the benefits of decentralization of government through local government. Mrs. Manning herself conducted major consultation for almost 3 years. Series of documents pile up in the Ministry of Local Government as we speak. The high point in Trinidad's evolution in this regard came with the passing of the Municipal Corporation Act number 21 of 1990. That's when there was a quantum leap, when we moved away from the old county council system into the regional corporations. However, what was conducted by the county council was no major difference to what was now conducted by the regional corporations. It was just a name change. So again, there wasn't fundamental devolution of power and authority. However, the most significant thing to understand here, essentially, and I say this without fear of contradiction, essentially, successive administrations have kicked the can down the road. Let me repeat that. Successive administrations have kicked the can down the road. Now the ball is in our court. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you the assurance that this administration will not kick the can further down the road. The pitfalls of centralized governance has been uncovered, discussed, debated, and documented for decades. And consistently, it has pointed that stronger local government, a broadening of our democracy, is the way to go. But this history and wealth of information presents us with a pool of thinking, a collection of information that allows us to now strike with surgical precision and real-world relevance. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this fundamental point. Local government reform and empowering of communities goes beyond garbage collection. It goes beyond retaining walls and waterways. It goes beyond traffic and community centers, mosquitoes and empty lots, and physical infrastructure. Because every decision made by central government inevitably has an effect on what I call our software, our hearts and our minds. Our sense of well-being, our sense of autonomy, our sense of creativity, our sense of identity and belonging, and our sense of community. our sense of being able to make a difference, and in our basic capacity to dream and to passionately pursue those dreams are gradually being absorbed away from us. Because everything you have to go to central government for permission. And above all, the centralization of decision-making affects our needs and ability to unite and build stronger communities. Because everybody external to you has to approve what you have to do. So in a very real sense, and particularly at the pace of which the modern world is developing, and I say this with guarded optimism, centralized government is more likely to be the problem than the solution. So be it. We have to face the reality. And ladies and gentlemen, the major impediment that prevented existing local government structures from being more efficient, more relevant, and more cost-effective, I will outline probably 3 to 4 major impediments. First and foremost, political interference and expediency, and largely the lack of political will to make it happen. Because everybody speaks about it, From UNC to PNM to now, Everybody spoke about local government reform since independence. The Hugh Wooden Commission spoke about local government reform. But somehow or the other, I'm not blaming anyone, somehow or the other, nobody wanted to bite the bullet. This administration is willing to do that. Inadequate funding has been a perennial problem, which we plan to address. The inadequacy of the supporting legislation to make the transformation. That is why, sitting on the right hand, I wouldn't say the right hand of God, but sitting on my right hand is Minister Stuart Young, the second most important person in this transformation process, because the legislative agenda we consider very, very fundamental to this transformation. The sluggish administrative structure that facilitates unnecessary bureaucracy, we all know what it is about. The lack of consultation and an overall lack of transparency and accountability, which has plagued not only central government, but local government. Ladies and gentlemen, when you hold a public office, let me say that again. When you hold public office, you are accountable to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So no one else. Member of Parliament is accountable, a minister is accountable to the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister is accountable to the Parliament. And the Parliament is accountable to the people. So at the end of the day, we are all accountable to you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So ladies and gentlemen, again, local government has become ineffective and burdened with bureaucracy. And here I'm going to make my key point. Because control, funding, and authority are centralized in the Ministry of Local Government. And the corporations are currently treated as department of the ministry. I want people to understand this fundamental difference. The Ministry of Local Government is not local government. The Ministry of Local Government is central government. Local government resides in the corporations and the municipalities. So why should local government have a central government boss with a big whip over them? That is why we are saying that for this to happen, you have to cut the umbilical cord that separates the Ministry of Local Government from the corporations and the municipalities. We have to empower. The phrase I like to use, you cannot be half pregnant. It's either you devolve power or you don't. And that is why we are saying once this program comes to its ultimate fruition, we will retire the Ministry of Local Government. And we'll get some more consultation as we move into that. I see my agenda as what I call the Mikhail Gorbachev agenda. Mikhail Gorbachev had something called perestroika in the Soviet Union. He disbanded the Soviet Union. He's the only person who put himself out of power in the history of mankind and disbanded the mighty Soviet Union into the individual states. That is the type of transformation and revolution we are talking about. So I now ask the question, how many ministers know the community like you do? Like you, the citizens, do? And can they all know the lady down the road who can barely walk anymore? And that she has to go to Port of Spain every year she survives to some ministry to prove to them that she's indeed alive, otherwise her pension will be cut off. Can any minister or any single minister or member of parliament know every community, every street, every house, far less every old lady or every need in every community? The answer is simply no. So our vision for local government is a fully operationalized and networked local government system. This is imperative to people-centered development and to the accomplishment of any national vision. We envision a quantuple leap in most services, in healthcare, in family and community life, in security, in development of public spaces and environment, in local culture, in entrepreneurship, in local industries, in communication, and in information technology. You will be masters of now all you survey. Your ability to fix or to plan your own roads, to build a retaining wall in your community, or to launch a festival, all have direct impact on the quality of life in your community. And ladies and gentlemen, local government reform puts that power in your hands. This is not old talk. Finally, I just want to deal with some specific points for the next couple minutes. As we stated in the 2015 PNM Manifesto, the PNM's vision for local government seeks to remove most, if not all, of the red tape and bureaucracies that prevented local government bodies from doing their work in an effective and efficient manner. That Balize symbol has now been converted to a coat of arms. The PNM's policy position has now been accepted as official government policy. And to revolutionize and bring the system in line with recommendations of the many teams, and I want to recognize this here today, recommendations is not only what we will be doing now, it's what has been done in the past by successive administration. The many recommendations of the many teams, committees, and different administration that has engaged this process over the years. Based on that collective wisdom, of those gone before, those who currently in authority now, and the collective wisdom of the entire citizenry, these are some of the specific things we want to propose. Secure funding. I will run through this very quickly because this is the basis of the consultation. Secure funding, collect your own taxes. Even the THA doesn't have that authority right now. Why shouldn't the municipal corporations and the cities collect land and building taxes and keep it as a cash flow for their own development? You pay local tax. It happens all over the world, in all cities. You pay local municipal taxes, which is maintained by the municipal corporation and used for the services of the people of the respective areas. Secondly, executive authority. This is similar to the THA. Local government bodies will be given a level of autonomy and executive authority similar to the Tobago House of Assembly. And let me make this point abundantly clear here today. This has nothing to do with politics. Because the mayor of San Fernando, who is a PNM mayor, will have the same authority as the chairman of the Penal DB Corporation, which is a UNC chairman. This has absolutely no discrimination. It is who you vote for, the authority will be transferred upon. So if you see it fit to vote for Party A, and Party A runs a corporation, the authority will be put into the hands of that party. If you vote for Party B, it is the same token. There will be absolutely no discrimination. New responsibilities. This is probably the most significant part of the consultation, because we want to develop something like what Tobago has, what they call the Schedule 5. Okay? Local government bodies are now responsible for specific tasks. We want to expand the portfolio, expand the remit of these bodies to include inter alia, based on the consultation again, school maintenance. Ladies and gentlemen, one company called the Education Management Facilities Limited is mandated to fix 600 and something primary schools and almost 200 and something secondary schools. Hence the reason why every September, you expect the Monday school open to see a headline in the papers, 10 schools, 15 schools, 20 schools unable to open. It is because it is badly managed. Those school repairs could easily come through the hands of the regional corporation so that you will know your 15 or 20 schools in areas. There will be focused, laser focused attention to these things, and it will happen, and it will happen on time. Social welfare services. The example I drew about the old lady. The best persons to know that is your councillors, because it is in the local government domain that you have the closest contact to the people. Local tourism, for example. Why shouldn't the Princeton Corporation be in charge of developing Devil's Wood Yard as a tourist site? And why shouldn't the people of Grashima and Maruga not try to have discovery festivals reenacted in Trinidad and Tobago to build local tourism? And these are some of the areas we want to discuss with you. And you can bring up your ideas and say what areas you think local government should be responsible for. The mayor of San Fernando spoke about local contractors. The regional corporations, by and large, should engage local contractors to do local work, because it is in local contractors the multiplier effect takes place. So if you have a job in Penal and you use a Penal contractor, the Penal contractor very likely employs Penal people. And when the Penal people get paid, they buy in Penal groceries and they drink in Penal bars. I didn't say that. And that is how the multiplier effect affects your community. More effective municipal policing. I've spoken about that. Dr. Rowley has spoken about that. We plan to put 100 municipal police officers in each of the corporations so that the police force in Trinidad and Tobago overnight will increase by 1,400. And local policing, you will have a city, take San Fernando, for example, with 100 San Fernandians more likely being in the municipal police. San Fernandians who knows his community. And he wouldn't have to fear that if he do something wrong, they're going to transfer him to Toku, because there will be no cross-regional transfers. So that you have to build relationships with your community and gather intelligence. In the old days when Burroughs was in Tong, that is how he gathered his intelligence, Okay? So with all this electronic gadgetry and thing, you could monitor. I'm not saying no. But policing and effective policing is about information and gathering strategic information to solve crime. That plan is well in place. Developmental control, tongue and country planning, devolution of power to the regional corporation to approve plans and approve buildings. We'll discuss all that. Let's move on. Infrastructure works. We plan to implement a system of local infrastructure projects and to completely restructure the mode in which this is undertaken. Disaster management. I spoke about TEMA a while ago. We need to further empower the local government bodies. But let me make this point, that one of the best run areas in local government now is disaster management. They have really revolutionized this thing, and as a first respondent in disaster management, they have been doing an excellent job. Very, very important, involvement of civil society. And I really want to pause here for a while. You have to engage civil society in your determination. The example I like to draw is United States. If Walmart wants to come into a community in the US and build a mall, it's tongue meeting in your tail, When the community sits with their local representative, if they say no Walmart, there's no Walmart, Because the power is entrusted with the communities and the NGOs. The state of Vermont, I've been to Vermont a couple of years ago to look at fall foliage. Vermont has absolutely no McDonald's. You'll be surprised that the entire state in the United States has no fast food chains because the local authority in Vermont say they do not want it. Vermont has no Home Depot because they want to still continue with the mom and pop hardwares. Okay, so this is the empowerment of local government. Once you empower the states. And finally, regional development planning, which will be all part of that. You're in charge of your space and you come up with a developmental plan for your municipalities. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to focus on 3 points. Boundaries. As we speak, we have 14 regional corporations in Trinidad and municipalities. This discussion, we want to hear your feedback, whether 14 is too much, whether 14 is too little. Whether certain corporations are too large, whether certain corporations are too small. And need to synchronize that. So when we come up with a robust plan to say, we'll be doing this local government transformation, whether we will maintain our 14 corporations, whether we will reduce it to 12, or whether we will make it 16. But all that will have to be based on scientific data and on interaction with consultations like these. Organization and structure. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be the first to admit, as the minister in charge of this, and if we empower the regional corporations with what we plan to do, they do not have the capacity to deliver as we speak. It will call for new administrative structures within the regional corporations. It will call for new skill sets, and not the traditional public service skill sets, because you will be empowered to undertake work. You'll need quantity surveyors, you will need engineers, you'll need something called supply chain management, you'll need quality control, you'll need audit, you'll need PR, you'll need IT. And this is so enterprising for me. This is the part that I feel really enthused about. Because you know why? This country has spent billions of dollars on GATE. And we are not absorbing the young graduates in any serious way. Because right now this country suffers from, Trinidad doesn't suffer from much unemployment, you know. Trinidad suffers from underemployment. Because your children who have masters and graduate from the University of the Western Indies and UT, they are not getting the jobs that their skill sets demand them to have. And that is frustrating the young people in a very significant way. Good. And this is an area that we could open up to absorb the skills that we are spending billions of dollars educating people with masters and then putting them in OGT and telling them go and copy something by the photocopying machine. These things hopefully will be something of the past. Legislation, Mr. Stuart Young will deal with that in great detail when we start the panel discussion. We want to amend the Municipal Corporation Act. We amend the relevant taxation laws to allow local government bodies to retain the taxes. We want to even recommend amendments to Section 69 of the Act to reflect some new standing committees in the corporation. And whatever new legislation that is required, we give you the commitment that it will be done. Because this is not cosmetics. This is fundamental. And if at the end of the consultation we think that it's supposed to be a new legislative suite of bills, we will do that. Am I right, Mr. Young? Good. The timetable, we have a tight timetable. The local government election is due on or about December 2016. At a minimum, that is all I will say on the timetable, because I don't want to make commitments that we can't keep. But at a minimum, we want to have the legislation tabled in Parliament before the next local government election. Move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard enough of me. Your support and collaboration is needed if these plans are to be successful. This is the framework we have set. It is not cast in stone. During this consultation, I don't want you to agree with me. I want you to tell me what you think. If you find what I spoke makes sense, feel free to say it. If you find what I spoke makes no sense, also feel free to say it. Because we want to get your ideas. Good, because it is your ideas as the people on the ground that is significant. We cannot have a top-down approach. We have set a framework which we think is reasonable, but we are subject to change because that is what the consultation process is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought the introduction would have been much briefer than this, but I got carried away, and because I am very much engaged in this project. So I want to thank you for listening to me. You will have one more video that we'll show, and then we will take our chairs here and have the consultative process. Dr. Rowley will be joining us just around 7:15 for the latest. When he comes, he will make some remarks, and then he will join the panelists. The panelists will be myself, Mr. Honorable Stuart Young, Minister in the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Attorney General's Office, and of course, Dr. Rowley will be staying in the consultation till it ends at around 9 o'clock. So we look forward to seeing him very shortly. So thank you all once again, and it was a pleasure addressing.
That's Frank and Mo from Frank and Mo and Company. They checking out that construction going on up the hill across the river. A new residential something. Frank and Mo doing the environmental impact thing to make sure that a compound that big don't tie the whole place now. They get that contract from the council. Oi Chris, here, have a blessed day. Oops, almost forget my breakfast. Thanks Shireen, you too Nibs. Texted in my order since I get up. And in May, local theatre company School Street Performance Group premieres its new musical at the School Street Community Centre in May. I in that. A couple years ago, there was no local news. And even if it had any, I absolutely wasn't taking out no iPad to get nothing nowhere around here. But things different now. That's Maureen making her way to the new clinic. Local taxes build that. Carla just moved back from Canada. Toronto have nothing on School Street. Oh, by the way, that's the school they named School Street after. My brother worked on the new ventilation system for them. Culo Brizo. His office is 3 streets down so. On time. Yes, the bus is CNG. We petitioned for a few more and we're working on insisting that only CNG buses can use our length of the bus route. The carbon monoxide destroying the limestone caves in the quarry, and that will kill the tourism in the area. Now I see that the Komuto Council and the Pointe-a-Pierre Council asking for the same things. We's pioneers.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think Minister Khan deserves another hearty round of applause for that informative, thank you, informative and revolutionary presentation about the devolution of local government. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the arrival of the Attorney General and, of course, Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, Faris Al-Rawi. Welcome. And as we set up our stage, of course, for the consultation part of this evening's proceedings, I would just like to remind everyone that, of course, there are the 3 mics located on the sides as well as in the middle of the hall. Please raise your hands if you are so inclined to, of course, join us in this consultation. We have our technical team on standby looking out for you. So raise your hand and they will. We already have one very eager participant here. And of course, they will direct you to the mic. We now welcome back on stage Minister Khan, as well as Minister Stuart Young, who will, of course, field the preliminary questions of the consultation as we await the arrival of Dr. Rowley. So again, I remind you, please raise your hands so that we know who is ready, willing, and able to give us the first few questions of this evening's proceedings. So we have one question for this gentleman in front here. So you can come, sir, you can just take this mic right behind you. And again, if anyone else is ready and willing to participate, please raise your hands. The technical team will make their way to you. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. The question of a vexing question that persists for years is the participation of citizens in the governing process. I think since reviewing the whole question of local government, I want...
Sir, if you could just stand a bit closer to the mic, and of course, all our other participants, please remember to do the same. Yes. If you could repeat the question, please.
Yes. I want to suggest that the local government councils convene quarterly meetings and invite to those meetings the citizens that they represent. And at those meetings also, invite the parliamentary representatives. Now, in that way, we're passing on power and authority, continuing with, to the involvement of the citizens. One of the things that Mr. Condon then addressed really is what kind of relationship we'll have between the parliamentary representatives and the local government authority. That's a critical thing. And I want to suggest that at these meetings with the citizens, that we have the full council there, but we also invite the parliamentary reps to sit in meetings. Further, I'll pass this on. Further, I want to suggest that the mayor's office, when I say mayor, talking about mayor and chairman, be a full-time employee. And as such, and must be given the same kind of protocol arrangements and the same kind of remuneration and so on that the MP, that the MP has. As a matter of fact, the status of the mayor office must equal an MP with respect to protocol, remuneration, and other conditions of employment. We must develop the culture that the mayor or the chairman will be the big man in town. If we fail to do that, things will not work as well. Let me comment here quickly. The question of now, I want to make a question here. The deputy mayors, vice chairman, councillors, and aldermen must receive the same monthly common sense remuneration package, which will at least enable them to acquire a car. Further, I'd advise there should be no difference. All mayors, chairman, deputy mayors, vice chairman, councillors, and aldermen must be entitled to the same terms and conditions of employment associated with their respective offices. In other words, there should be no difference between the terms and conditions of employment of the mayor of Port of Spain and the chairman of the David Penal Government Corporation. Must be one thing across. And finally, I want to pass this document on to Mr. Young, but finally I want to say this, that there should be a budget day. The idea of a budget day. The council must organize a budget day when estimates for the council's next financial year will be publicly debated and utilized in state media. If I take my seat, the question of the usage of state media, in my opinion, will form a very important part in promoting, getting this whole thing off the ground on a continuing basis. I suggest that when we have those, when we convene the meetings of the citizens, get involved in town meetings, statutory town meetings as such, that the state media be there, whether live or relayed and delayed. Okay, thank you very much.
I mean, we have verbatim note takers and what have you, but once the rules and responsibilities are defined, the remuneration packages will be commensurate to your responsibility level. So that will be dealt at a very clinical level. The point of, sorry, members of parliament, what will be the role of the members of parliament? Ladies and gentlemen, I was a member of parliament once. The role of the member of parliament's prime responsibility is a legislator here. He has to go to the parliament and make laws for Trinidad and Tobago. His prime responsibility is not to fix your drain and to fix your pothole and to get a job for your child. However, it is because there was no local government infrastructure that responsibility was attached to him by default. So if this local government situation evolves in the way we want it to evolve, the local government councillor will have that responsibility for local infrastructure and local amenities. And the member of parliament will assume his prime responsibility as a legislator. That happens in Tobago as we speak, you know. Because there's nothing for the Tobago MPs to do, because Mr. London and the THE handling all that. And the Tobago members of parliament are largely legislators and or cabinet ministers. And if the local government reform process gets the traction that it's supposed to get, I envisage the same thing to happen.
I agree completely with Minister Khan. I think the point is you need to understand when we talk about devolution, it is empowering those who are charged with local government responsibility to get done in the communities what needs to get done that literally affects the lives, the daily lives of those in the community. So as Minister Khan used the examples of clearing the drains, ensuring that potholes, etc. are fixed, those are really the responsibilities of the local government councillors. What we also envisage is that the councillors, the aldermen, and the mayors, etc., it will be full-time jobs, not part-time jobs. So of course, the remuneration will be commensurate. It will be similar to systems that exist, for example, in the UK and in Canada, where you have the local government literally running the constituencies, the local government constituencies, and the MPs, as Minister Khan said, are going to Parliament to make laws, but also to represent what may need to be represented at that level, the parliamentary level of their constituencies. But it is really empowering the local councillors and the people, the men and women on the ground to get their jobs done. So don't panic about the remuneration side. It will be commensurate now with full-time positions. With respect to the other point about town hall meetings and inviting the MPs, that's a necessity. In fact, I think you will start to see that happening now, even before there's local government legislation. I know some of my fellow parliamentarians, we have already planned that in our constituencies where we're going to have town hall meetings. I am kicking mine off in Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West in January, where I'll invite the councillors, and I will be there participating and have town hall meetings where the citizenry can come and voice their concerns, and we work together to find solutions. And with respect to the budgetary side, yes, there will be a transparent process. We would expect, similar to the THA, that budgets are presented publicly by the local government councils to the citizenry, and we will work towards, we have the Minister of Communication here, having proper television coverage of these events, because we do agree that introduces a higher and a greater level of transparency, as we see taking place with parliamentary proceedings being broadcast live now. But yes, because of the added responsibilities that you will be given, and that you're now in charge of your budgets, obviously a higher level of transparency and accountability will be demanded of you as to how you're spending money, how money is being allocated, and at the end of the day, every municipality and council must come forward to the citizenry and report.
Ministers, thank you so much for answering the first of many questions. We literally have a line out of the door. So we do welcome the next gentleman. And to everyone who intends to participate tonight, we do encourage brevity. We do have quite a few members of the public here who do want to voice their opinions, get their views across. So we do ask that you respect that. Please also be reminded that we do have several other ways to give your feedback. We do have feedback forms, and of course you can go online, whether it's on Facebook, on our Twitter account, hashtag #TTLocalMatters, as we invite the next question.
And may I suggest that what we also do is everybody, you start off by stating your name, because of course we're recording all of this, so for prosperity and the recordings going forward, we would have recorded who it is making what contribution.
All right, my name is Steve Rabathali. I am from San Fernando West. I listened to you all very, very carefully for the last probably 3/4 of an hour, right? And one of the things that I am very much concerned about, with devolution, you must have education. You can't devolve power without educating people, and I didn't hear that emphasized in all that was said tonight, right? And when I speak about education, I'm speaking about going to the village, and what you need to do is to organize the village into communities to identify the needs of those communities, right? At the same time, you have to educate the villagers as to what local government reform is all about. Because what is going to happen, even though we have a lofty and lovely vision, if it is not reaching the people, just like the primary health care in health, okay? You have to empower the people at the base, down up, right? And they have to be really, really ukura with the vision. They must share the vision. They must be emotionally moved to say, well, this is a very important thing, right? And then from there, well, we could organize all the structures and all the various things and get it moving, okay? So that is my little contribution.
Your point is well. The point is well taken. I mean, the education will be a continuous process. A good example is that I was advised initially that I should have 4 consultations, divide Trinidad in 4, and we said, no, we're going with 14 consultations because there are 14 regional corporations. So, and as we go down and as we drill deeper down, post some form of reform, we will continue the education process at the level of the village, because what you want is community engagement, and this whole model caters for that. So, feel another question, and after this question, I think we'll ask if there is any social media question that they have.
Testing, 1, 2.
Yeah, please.
Yes, pleasant good night to all.
Good night.
My name is Tracy Caesar. I am from Marbella East. I am from Pointe-à-Pierre, and I am from Coquille, Tarouba. You get the picture already. My problem, or the thing that I think that you all should be addressing most, I wait on the mayor to sit down, so we can stand up together.
Minister who is here, and we welcome him to San Fernando. Let us have a round of applause. No. Kazim, no. Yeah, don't pass. This. Okay. And just for record, before Dr. Oli has now joined the panel in the consultation part, but he was called to make some brief remarks earlier, so I now invite him to just to the audience and before we continue the consultation. I'm sorry to put you on a spot, sir, but that's par for the course.
Thank you, thank you. Good night, good night. I was hoping to catch my breath. The minister really caught me offside. Well, good night to members of the cabinet, members of council, the mayor of San Fernando, and burgesses of San Fernando, and visitors to San Fernando. Tonight is a very special night, and I really had to be here because I want to give my full support to the effort that we are making and to convince the skeptics that this community development in Trinidad and Tobago is real. I could have stayed away and get a report from the minister here, the minister there, the media, and I'm sure I would have got a comprehensive report that all was well in San Fernando and you had a good evening. But I wanted to be present to say a few words to you, the people of San Fernando, and to congratulate you here in San Fernando once again for being the head of the spear, taking the lead, being in the avant-garde of change in Trinidad and Tobago, in this case in Trinidad, because we are talking here about local government reform in Trinidad. You may recall that Tobago, under many years of political agitation, eventually got some aspect of local government reform and devolution of authority from central government to Tobago, I think it was 25 years ago. And this has been serving the people of Tobago very well. I distinctly recall when that political toing and froing was taking place in Tobago, I was a young member of the PNM then, looking on at the powers that be, the elephants clashing at the top. And I remember being in one or two events with Kamaluddin Mohammed, responding to A.N.R. Robinson, Dr. Williams sitting quietly by and talking about it. But there was something Dr. Williams said which had caught my attention. And I'm not even sure if it was recorded because I've been looking for a script of it and I haven't found it. But I remember hearing him saying it on the radio. And it might have been coming from Parliament, I'm not sure. But I haven't been able to find it. But I heard it from the radio. Dr. Williams, when the PNM conceded that Tobago had to be deshackled from the central government arrangement, that he said that as the Tobago House of Assembly comes into being and Tobagonians are given more authority to manage their affairs on the island, the success, if this succeeds in Tobago as it's expected to succeed, then the model can be imported to Trinidad sometime in the not too distant future. I distinctly recall Dr. Williams saying that. And that was 25 years or so ago. Today I can tell you that the model has worked in Tobago and has worked very well. The initial piece of legislation that caused the Tobago House of Assembly to come into being was groundbreaking. But there was still some hesitation on the part of the PNM to let go of the people of Tobago, to give them that responsibility for the local environment. Because there are always those who feel that the only day is today and that there's no tomorrow. And the only methodology is what you use now and there's no new system to come. So the legislation in 1980 was later revised and Tobago was given a little more autonomy. And now, as I speak to you now, Tobagonians are still saying that the process isn't complete, that they could take more responsibility, while remaining firmly within the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago. With respect to managing their affairs on the island, they could take on more responsibility and they must. And I must tell you, I support them in that process. And very soon, you will understand, in Tobago there will be an election for the leader of the PNM in Tobago, because the local government reform in Tobago found its way into the party, the very party that was resisting this effort to have this change which some felt would bring about disaster. The party made changes too in response to the successes in Tobago, and we amended the PNM's constitution to allow party members in Tobago autonomy with respect to operation of the party's business in Tobago. So in Tobago, there's a leader of the PNM in Tobago. Whoever that person might be automatically holds a position at the national level as a deputy political leader of the PNM, responsible for Tobago's affairs. And that leader of Tobago so far has been the leader in the executive in the assembly, leads the party in Tobago. And of course, as we progress, one leader of long-standing, Mr. London, has said this is his last term, he's stepping down in 2016. So automatically, the party now knows that there has to be a leader in Tobago, there has to be an election in Tobago, the party will elect someone, and that person becomes the leader of the PNM in Tobago. So you have autonomy at the level of the executive and the administration, you have autonomy at the level of the political entity. And this is how a nation develops. I tell you this so that you can understand what we are expecting to happen in Trinidad. We have 14 corporations in Trinidad, cities, boroughs, and municipal corporations. What we expect is that you, the people, would see the benefits of this. There might be one or two or 10, I don't know how many downsides, but I can tell you, the seesaw is largely up. There are a lot of upsides to it. You go to Tobago today, and those of you who go would probably agree with me that Tobago is better managed at the local level than Trinidad. The place is cleaner. The public buildings are better maintained. The schools are available. The children are looked after. The management of money, you can see more clearly where the money comes in and where it is going, and most importantly, who is responsible for what. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a lot better, a lot less foggy than in Trinidad. And we will get better there in Tobago, but I think Trinidad should start that process. On the contrary, what you have in Trinidad is a repeated cycle of one, always complaining that you have the responsibility at local level, you have the authority, you don't have the resources, or you're hamstrung by the law. In fact, the current legislation which I have assigned this Minister Stuart Young, I almost said Stuart Williams, Stuart Young, one of his responsibilities is to oversee the legislative review and bring the drafts that have to be brought to put what I'm aspiring to here into being. Because as it stands now, there's an occasion where the minister continues to be the force in local government. And the minister has the control of the system. In fact, if there is no election for whatever reason, at some point in time at the end of the life of the corporation, before the next election is held, the minister is in total control. And if the minister is not a believer in local autonomy, you can have all kinds of constraints. You call the corporation, they have problems with killing a few rats in your backyard. They have problems with mosquitoes. They have problems with a pothole because they never have the resources. And it's never their fault. There's nobody accountable. In Tobago, I can tell you the Tobago House of Assembly election is one about accountability. Because the Tobagonians know who was in charge of education. They know who was in charge of health. They know who was in charge of agriculture. They know who was in charge of community development. So if these areas have been mishandled, they know who to hold accountable. No such thing exists in Trinidad. In Trinidad, you have public servants who are not accountable in the political arena, running the show largely. And we've had many instances of tiffs between the politician and the public servant. And you're never sure who's right and who's wrong. But the bottom line is that you get these reports coming to Parliament 10 years late as to what happened 10 years ago. And you call the corporation to respond to something, and there's always somebody else's fault. What the new arrangements are holding out to you? Two things. One, greater authority to manage your affairs at the local level. And two, greater clarity in seeing who is responsible. But this puts on you a responsibility. I'm so pleased to see so many of you here tonight because I'm taking this to mean that you understand what I'm saying and what the government is holding out to you. That if you, the people, don't show an interest, it's going to fail. But if you show this kind of interest, then we'll get so strong at local level that the central government will begin to wonder if they've given away their birthright. But the whole idea is to strengthen you at the local level. So we intend to give you some greater responsibility with respect to granting of approvals in your corporation. Somebody wants to build a 3-story building next to an area where it shouldn't be built. That decision should be made at council. And you, the burgesses, can come to council at the appropriate time because there'll be a requirement for it to be made known to you. No secrets. If it has to be done under law, it has to be brought in front of you. And if you are concerned about it, whatever the issue, you come to council and you stand up in council and you express yourself to the council. And if you are sufficiently opposed to it, you mobilize your community and you say to the council, we're not going to have this. And that's how you keep control of the situation. And that is empowering people. I went up to Lopino Road somewhere, and I saw this dilapidated community center. And there was a group there wanting to operate a steel band. And I felt sorry for them because here they wanted to operate the steel band. The place is dilapidated. But you know what? Somebody in Port of Spain forgot for the last nth year to allocate resources to repair this community center. I am sure, as I felt then when I saw it, if the responsibility for that community center had lied with the corporation of the area and the resources were available, then I'm sure they would have responded differently. they would have responded in the way the Tobagonians respond. The best Spaniards in the country are in Tobago, looked after by the Tobago House of Assembly. All public buildings in Tobago are looked after better than in Trinidad. And I want to go one step further. Some attitudes can change if you bring this responsibility to the local level. You see, people are not doing a full day's work for a full day's pay in Trinidad and to the second people. And there are some people who demand that as of right. But if there's accountability closer to where the resources are dispersed and where people can be held accountable, I expect that to change. And when that changes, you get greater value for money. There's something else we want to do too, and that is to give the corporations some impetus to encourage local business within the corporation, local contracting, local services. And if you do that, then the opportunity for the community to develop by way of small business, by way of fair treatment, equal opportunity, and all of us will benefit. But if you, the burgesses, don't pay attention and don't hold the political directory accountable, I don't mean on election day. This development is giving you more than election day. It's giving you an opportunity to be involved between elections. Because when things happen between elections, you are going to be given that opportunity to get involved in there, and you'll have that authority not by favor, but by legislation. But if you don't pay attention, the very openings that we are creating now for you, if you don't participate, if you don't take responsibility to hold those who are supposed to serve you accountable, we would have created an environment for greater corruption. But I have confidence in you, the people, that once we put it in place, you will take charge. And then you wouldn't elect square pegs to fit your round holes. Because if you do that, then don't blame me, don't blame the government, and don't blame Eric Williams because he did a long time. Blame yourselves. If we are saying to you that we are going to give you the responsibility in this San Fernando to collect every dollar of taxes owed to the government, to the borough, to the city for landed building taxes, and you know somebody is corrupt, and you elect them to office, whose fault is that? Who are you going to blame? If you know somebody is lazy and incompetent, whose fault is that if you know that? And you elect them to office because it's your cousin or your brother or your nan, who are you going to blame? And then, of course, if in the other corporation they do better and they run their school districts better, you know what's going to happen? You will start a run over there with your children to put the children in those schools. Because there'll be school boards under the control of the local city corporation. And you now will have within your power that responsibility to execute, to make sure that the school boards function, to serve on the school boards. This will be good public service, to help to mold our children from early, from the preschools through the primary schools. And we are also intervening at primary school level because we want to break this cycle of children just passing through school, spending more and more money and getting less and less educated people. The health system, we're spending more and more money and getting less and less health care. And God knows we don't have more money to spend, we have less. So now more than ever, you are required to make sure that every dollar gives you 100 cents of service. So I'm excited about it. There are those who believe it's not going to happen. But if the ministers don't make it happen, then I will make it happen. 2015, ladies and gentlemen, we got our independence in 1962. The group that is working on putting this in place, they have a lot of reports to work on because a lot of the work has been done already. A lot of these consultations took place, but I sense in 2015 a greater sense of urgency. The one thing that I can tell you without fear of contradiction is that there's a government in office which is sure that its manifesto pledge will be met. We've put it in our manifesto that in this term of office, we will bring about significant local government reform. And like Tobago, it may take 2 steps or 3 steps, but we certainly will make a giant step in 2015. At least be able to 2016. We are going to come to you, most importantly, after these consultations where you'll express yourself. We're going to come to you with the legal amendments that we intend to make or the legal draftings that we intend to put in place. You'll hear about it again, maybe not in this forum because we might come to you on the television because the logistics will not allow us to come back every 2 weeks. But certainly there'll be a document coming out to you and there'll be consultation. But at the end of the day, we will decide what we are going to do and we will do it because we are sure that there's benefit to be had. And the objective is to improve the quality of life, improve the nation's management structure, and improve our ability to get the best that this nation holds out to us as the potential for people who can have a good quality of life, which if we behave properly, we can become the envy of a large section of the world in the 21st century. So I'm very happy to see you all out here tonight. Feel free to, in the most civil and respectful way, express yourselves. If you have fears, express the fears. We want to know. If you are confident, express that confidence. We want to know. If there are pitfalls that you see, express them because this is when we'll do it. Because when we do it, we will be influenced by what you say to us. Because we are not the oracle. We are not the fountain of all wisdom. That's why we're here, to hear from you what you think and to hear from you how we should. And at the end of the day, we have the responsibility for fashioning and shaping what is going to go forward, and then we take responsibility for what has been produced. So I thank you very much, and I'm so happy to see so many of you out here tonight.
Yeah, well.
I think,
Yes.
on, this gentleman was, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. Once again, good night, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Prime Minister and all ministers, all protocol observed. My name is Tracy Caesar, and like I was saying earlier, it was a long time ago I was standing here, that I live in Marbella East, Coquille, Taruba, Pointe-à-Pierre, in the city of San Fernando. The picture I'm creating here is that the part of Marbella, the district in Marbella I live, is local government, Coquille, Taruba, that's part of Gopal lands. It's in the city of San Fernando. But I vote general election for Pointe-à-Pierre seat. And when I have a local government problem and I happen to see or get my local government representative to hear me and he doesn't deliver, I go to my MP, Pointe-à-Pierre, who wears a yellow shirt, and he tell me, well, boy, what you going to do, boy? You can't get a meeting with the mayor because them PNM boys, that is what people face because of boundaries that do not make us encased where our local government and our central government rep is within the same area. So when you live Marbella, let's take Marbella Market. It serves Marbella east, west, north, south, Pointe-à-Pierre. But when you have a problem, you don't know who to go to. And I'm saying the local government should ensure that people who live in a district of the regional corporation is also represented by an MP who governs that area. I'll give you a classic example. I've been running Marbella Football League for over 30 years. I need a ground fix. The city say, well, boy, you know, the boys in yellow ain't passing no money, the pressure in Sando, PNM. That goes well for all the sportsmen that live in Marbella. And then now that the PNM is in, you know, we have another problem. Hold on sometime. But what I'm saying here is that the people of Marbella are suffering for more than 8 years for a recreation facility that 3 government administrations cannot deliver. And we cannot go to the local government because they say they ain't getting funding because that ground project comes under the Ministry of Sport and the sports company. So there is also a need to revolve the sports companies and put the sports company and decentralize that responsibility to the local government with more funding. I shouldn't have to hear that Marbella ground can't fix because Sando City don't have money and that is a sports company project which had to go Henry Street to complain. And the Minister of Sport doesn't know where Marbella is, much less the ground. I invited, okay, sorry about that. I invited a minister and so on. Okay. The other thing is crime. I have been doing my part with other people in Marbella to keep crime down. But the Marbella Football League, because we do not have a facility, moved from 34 teams to 6 teams because we don't have a facility. So, and I'm saying crime could be, I heard the Prime Minister saying in the budget, or Mr. Imber, that they want to do something about crime. They got to promote sport, okay, to solve this crime problem. And additionally, local government, one of the cornerstones of local government.
All right, hold on a second, because you've made a lot of very important points up front, and if you stay too long, the points will be forgotten. And secondly, there are a lot of people who would want to make a comment. So kind of wind up a little bit because...
Okay, I'm winding up here.
Yeah,
this is
please.
the last point.
Yeah.
Okay, local government is about delivering service to the people. People want service. And I'm saying the local government consultation and the whole project for Mr. Young should involve people. Service is supply chain business. Get some supply chain people in that whole project. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Before you go, I just want to acknowledge the presence of former local government minister, Mrs. Hazel Manning. I just recognized her there. She looks so much like a teenager, I didn't recognize her at all. Thank you for coming, Minister. And I don't want to take over your meeting because I'm going to leave you all in a little while to go to another function. But I see a lot of people here, and what I suggest that make your points as succinctly as you can. Don't make too many long speeches, otherwise we wouldn't get the full gist of things. But that gentleman who just spoke, he raised for me, two very important points which I want to address. Point number one, the situation of the overlap of local government and central government. It is not feasible to set about to establish boundaries that will coincide completely local government and central government. And this brings to a head, and it should and must bring to a head, hopefully, the understanding that there are 2 separate functions. The boundaries for the local government is for the authority for which local government will be held responsible. And you elect people to serve at local government. The people who are elected to serve in the parliament is a different job. You elect people to go to parliament. One of the problems we have and we are having is that the average person in this country makes no distinction between the local government representatives and the members of parliament. And in fact, they will hold the MPs responsible for the jobs of the local government. In fact, some people will come to an MP office with a matter which lies wholly within the corporation and will sit there for 4 hours waiting to see the MP to make a report about something that is really the responsibility of the local government representative, and that local government person is in the office right there, but the person wouldn't talk to them because they want to talk to the member of parliament on a matter which is not the parliamentarian's jurisdiction. Hopefully, when we make the changes we're going to make, it will become clearer, as I said earlier on, who is responsible for what. And this question of the boundaries will fade away. Because the way parliamentary seats are determined, it is not feasible that those boundaries will mesh with local government boundaries. And the problem you outlined about the ground in Marabella, if the area lies geographically outside of a boundary, then it will fall under the jurisdiction of the boundary within which it falls. So even though you would like the Marabella issue to be dealt with inside San Fernando, if the Marabella community, as you describe, is not within the boundary of the city of San Fernando, then you shouldn't be looking to the city corporation. On the other hand, if it does, then you look to the corporation for the management of those grounds, and not to the member of parliament from Pointe-à-Pierre. And you hit the nail on the head when you said that you have a football ground in Marabella. Football ground in Marabella. And you have to wait for somebody on Abercrombie Street to come and look after it. You've made the case. You've made the case for some serious review of the sports company's responsibilities, and you've made the case for local responsibility in Marabella or in the city of San Fernando. I rest my case.
Hello. Yeah, good night. I'm Rafael Gopi. I'm from Pleasantville, next to San Fernando, vicinity of San Fernando. My problem is the IBIS program, right? Where you guys implemented not too long ago. Hello? You hear me now? All right. Well, my problem is the IBIS program, which just been implemented not too long ago for local contractors, the incubator program, basically, right? I went to NEDCO to find out more about it when I realized that you guys do not have anybody to facilitate anybody in San Fernando region for that. And that a program that everybody's talking about, business and local contractors and this and this, and that's one of the government incubator programs that should be widely spread to everybody. And I'd just like to know, it's a very good thing you guys doing here, but what you guys doing within the ministry for these problems?
IBIS program is a NEDCO program, which is ready to help build young entrepreneurs, small businesses. What has been what has been lacking in the system is the synchronization of all these programs. So certain ministries and certain organizations and institutions have programs to help people, but it's not network. Because if NEDCO has an assistance program for small business, if NEDCO is not integrated with local government or the Ministry of Works or other state agencies, it just falls flat. So what we're trying to do is synchronize all these programs so that at the end of the day, it brings the benefit that is required. Okay?
All right.
Good evening. Good evening, reading from left to right. Good evening to the audience inside as well as outside. The Honorable Mr. Franklin Khan, the extremely Honorable Mr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and Mr. Stuart, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and Mr. Stuart Young. My name is Wayne Deming, and my parliamentary elections I vote in San Fernando West, and for local government elections I vote in Penal Day Regional Corporation. And I know for a fact that the MP, the Honorable Mr. Faris Alwari is my Member of Parliament, and Mr. Councillor Hall is my councillor at Penal Day Regional Corporation. I'm going to be very brief because there's a long line outside, a traffic jam. The Honorable Franklin Khan, in your dissertation, you quoted Vermont, all right? And the people in Vermont, whether or not who is in power, what they want, they seem to subscribe to. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, where we have, as they say, politics is everything. Salt is like salt, it's in everything. And we know for a fact that in Trinidad and Tobago, that is one of the factors that shape our political landscape is the patronage or the clientele patron relationship. Looking at it right now, as I say, But with all those sort of autonomy and independence that we intend to give communities, to what extent do you think that that action or that proposal or that plan will lead to garrison communities in Trinidad and Tobago, in Trinidad in fact? Thank you.
What I said is that this whole devolution of power will be apolitical. So in other words, it matters not to us at the level of the transformation whether, as I said, for the city of San Fernando is PNM controlled, the corporation of Penal Debe is UNC controlled. If we giving devolution of power to the mayor of San Fernando, for heaven's sake, we have to give that same level of devolution of power to the chairman of the Penal Debe Corporation. We in central government will not apply a big stick centralized policy over the various corporations because of their political affiliation, because we will be destroying the same principles that we are articulating now. Okay, so the Penal Debe, if they are UNC controlled, they will have the same authority to plan their own business. You may not like it, but that is the power that will be entrusted in them, just as the power will be entrusted in the mayor of San Fernando. Who is next?
My name is Shir Shah Ali, former local government representative, the last borough councillor in this council, and the first city councillor. So we had started 27 years ago to move powers to the local government, this council. And you know, there is a saying in Trinidad, whatever San Fernando does first, the rest of the country follows. I want to welcome the Prime Minister and members of Cabinet and our own representative, member for San Fernando West, who is a San Fernando boy. Also, Mr. Franklin Khan, who is from the South originally. The reasons that I am here for, I don't have to write them down. You know, if you're married and you don't have communication, it's separation, and after separation is divorce. So the most important thing in the new revolution here is communication. And I want to congratulate Mr. Khan for telling people that, you know, members of parliament are policymakers, which the country doesn't seem to understand. And local government are people who have to look after cleaning the drains, fixing the lights, making sure that the potholes are fixed, and not letting their small tin gods. Throughout this country, we have too many local government representatives who do not know what they are supposed to do. Hence the reason we have the kind of problems we are having. As we talk about moving along, right here where we stand, the former CEO of this corporation found money to build this hall and to build the administrative complex, second to none in the country. And the rest of the country, the rest of the local government bodies should come to San Fernando and start learning. And I'm very happy to hear the mayor told me that there are certain members of council, most of them, who are able to do things by him giving them the authority, which is the start of decentralization. We must understand that development comes at a price. People don't like changes, but we must ensure that we communicate within the districts that we live and to have consultations for anything to be done within the city. And when that is done, you wouldn't have people grumbling. Get people involved. Invite them to a forum once a month at the councils throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Ensure that the councillors know what their duties are. I sit at home and I see the mayor of Port-au-Spain saying the burgesses. When you're a city, you're a citizen. You're not a burgess. Also in San Fernando, you're a citizen of the city of San Fernando. In the regional corporation, you might be burgesses. And minor little things that can assist in going a long way. People do not appreciate and have to understand that nothing happens without the community. And we must get together, try and work for the benefit of our nation, and for the younger ones, because we have some brilliant young people, like the minister said, who are walking around with master's degrees in their pocket, not being able to get a job. But you know, if we don't give them the chance to be trained somewhere, because whenever they go for an interview, they ask, what is it, how long have you been on the job? And they've had no experience. So I want to congratulate the Prime Minister on this initiative, and I want to implore upon all the people here, no matter where you're from, to ensure that we get this thing going and to ensure that we assist in whatever way possible to make it a success. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much. I must say I've learned something here today also, because I use the word Burgesses very loosely. So I stand guided by your wisdom.
Thank
Good
you all.
evening.
Sorry,
Your
thank you
Honourable.
all for your contributions. I would just like to remind you all that as per our constitution, we are recording every aspect of these consultations. So, because we do not want to record you lovely people as person 1, person 2, 3, and 4, please do give us your name and, of course, from where you hail, so that we can make a genuine record of course, who has been here and, of course, who has contributed. I would also like to echo the sentiments of Dr. Rowley. Unfortunately, he will not be here with us for very much longer. And to ensure that he can address as many questions as is humanly possible, we do encourage once again to please keep your questions as short as possible. There is a line outside, and we really do want to get feedback from everyone. So I do encourage that as well. If you are unable, unfortunately, to participate with us on the mic, we are printing more feedback forms, because thus far, 300 have already been distributed tonight, and I think that deserves a round of applause, San Fernando. So we move on to the next question, and again, please introduce yourselves to all
Let
of us
me
here.
just make another comment. Just don't use up half of your time recognizing everybody. Just go straight to the point. We have already been recognized.
Okay, sure. Honorable Prime Minister and other Honorable Minister. My name is Johnny Chow. I'm on behalf of China, Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce to come to make a statement. Now, we are humbly suggest that with the local government reform, it has been even deployed in China as a developing country as well, and have been shown a very success in its way, how it runs the city and the different provinces. I think this initiative, it will create a success in Trinidad in terms of running in these 14 constituencies or cities or the local government. Now, what we also want to suggest it is that perhaps we will look at more public and private partnership in approaching of these cities and with the mayor and all these agencies to approach. So which means it is that in China Chamber of Commerce, we will lend our best ability to see what sort of local and foreign assistance in terms of many sectors and like agriculture and other important factor, which means we will be diverse away from the energy sources. Yeah, and basically, I'm not come to ask any question. We come to make suggestions. Hopefully, you know, these humble suggestions will be someday, you know, will be respond. Yes, thank you.
We're going. Let's keep
Yeah,
it in
let's
order. So
take
go ahead.
Good afternoon, distinguished panel. My name is John Kisson. I'm a citizen of San Fernando. My MP is the Honorable Mr. Faris Al-Rawi. My question for the panel this evening, in accordance with what was said in the Parliament during the budget debate with regards to the formation of an independent body consisting of statisticians, policy researchers, and a marketing arm, will a similar body be instituted for all local government bodies? And what might be the estimated timeline for the rollout of this? Also, I'd like to know what level of synergy can we expect from the Member of Parliament and local government? And what will be the consequences of not maintaining a mutual relationship? And what existing body would provide oversight to ensure that the relationship is maintained?
Right. Basically, we cannot purport an administrative structure if we haven't firstly defined what new roles and responsibilities will be given to local government. We have some embryonic thoughts, but as we build what I call the Schedule 5 for Trinidad and Tobago, as we see what responsibilities we will be assigning to local government, then we can contemplate what type of implementation structure that we need. But what I would say, as I said in my presentation, we expect a lot of new skills to be harnessed in that situation. And we will be looking at employing young new graduates from the universities with new skill sets to suit the modern business environment of Trinidad and Tobago.
Let me just add something to that. Whatever we come up with, it will have institutional arrangements. You have to put institutions in place to be able to have the functions that you want. So there will be. What is going to be called, what it's going to look like is a little early yet, right? However, you ask what's going to be the relationship between the member of parliament and the local government. Well, any member of parliament who wishes to have a successful term and a possible other term will know that you have to work hand in glove with local government in your area if you are to be seen to be worthy of representing the district in the parliament. And that's the advice I will give to any member of parliament in any area in the country, that you can't stand away from local government and expect to be successful. It's the other way around. So, and as I mentioned, institutions, take for example unemployment. The government has a series of programs geared towards treating with this question of employment creation or unemployment and its ravages. And a lot of public resources are directed into these programs. But I can tell you, I've been around for decades, you never really know who you're dealing with. But I went to a trip, went on a trip once to Jersey in Europe, the Channel Islands. Small islands, populations like Tobago and so on. And I asked a question which stayed with me. What is your unemployment level on the island? Expecting that somebody will tell me X percent, 5%, 3%. And when I asked that question in the gathering almost like this, one of the politicians who was on the head table said, we have 167 unemployed people. They knew them by name, by location, and I presume by skills or absence of skills. That puts that agency in a position to properly target any response to them. If they have skills, then you know what kinds of skills you can absorb or you're about to absorb. If they have no skills, you know maybe there's need for a skills training program. And if they're male or female, you know they have different kind of considerations. If they're young or old, you have considerations. So you are actually having your hand on the wheel. And I was so impressed with that. And I always wanted to see that kind of thing in Trinidad and Tobago, because one of the good things about being small is that it allows you to operate on that level. So we will expect that in these corporations, in these cities, in these boroughs, that you as part of your institutional arrangement will operate a labor exchange, a labor bureau. And unemployed persons will go and get registered. And you know what skills they have, and you know who they are. And then when you put money into a program, you don't end up with millionaires getting CPEP contracts. Understand? Those who need the help will get it. And the same thing with the social services. You give the corporation, you give the city corporation the responsibility for dispensing social services. The social service workers working for the corporation, they must know who are the children who are orphans. They must know who are the elderly people who are unattended. They must know which programs are geared to helping those people, and those people alone should be accessing those programs. So you shouldn't have politicians with food cards in their pocket giving out from the car trunk. Understand? That's what we're talking about.
May I just add, Dr. Rowley, prior to the election campaign, I ran a survey in San Fernando West, and the reason why the crowd here is so large, from the survey with a minus or plus 8% spread, we have a 90% population of San Fernando West that is willing to participate in changes for local government.
Please, yeah.
Good night, everyone. My name is Albert Marshall. Minister Khan, during your presentation, you spoke about Vermont and the citizens of the state being able to prevent Walmart and McDonald's from setting up business in Vermont, right? What I wanted to know, I'll give you some examples. For instance, the teaching hospital was supposed to be where all the ministry is supposed to be. For instance, you would have like the birth paper office right now is on Leoto Street. The passport office is on Potter Street. So you see what I'm saying? So they are scattered all over San Fernando, and they're supposed to be centralized into one place. For instance, McDonald's and Massey stores were built on a green area that we used to play cricket and stuff there. Napa South, which I love, don't get me wrong, is built in an area, we used to do BMX riding there. So the number of green areas in San Fernando has been significantly reduced. So what I want to know is, how will citizens of San Fernando be empowered to prevent certain changes being made?
That's a very critical question for the discourse we are having. Now, Chancery Lane is a different issue. The Chancery Lane was built as an administrative complex for San Fernando. There was a change of government. There was a different policy position. That is a government's right, and we are now back in office. And obviously, one of the dying needs of San Fernando is a similar Chancery Lane complex to hold the administrative functions of the city and of Central Valley. With regards Sapa and what's another one you call? Where McDonald's and Massey stores is by Bamboo Junction there. Yeah. Obviously, if your corporation was empowered in terms of the regional planning process, that could have never happened. But because that was a tongue and country planning decision that probably didn't take any cognizance of the views of the people of San Fernando. This is what we're trying to correct now.
Right, because right now in San Fernando, as compared to Port of Spain, there's only one major green area, which is Skinner Park, second grounds, right?
In fact, I was appalled when Massey stores and McDonald's were built there, because that was as a playground. Okay? Granted, a playground in the heart of a booming commercial district. So there are pros and cons of it, but the point we are making is that you will be decentralizing the developmental and the approval process coming out of tongue and country planning, and then the burgesses or the citizens of San Fernando, through their corporation, will now be empowered to determine what type of development they need in their space.
Well, we will deal with it legislatively.
Yeah, that's what I want to find out.
There is a process that now exists under the Municipal Corporation Act, but it's somewhat disjointed, because whilst the Municipal Corporation has to grant certain approvals, it waits on and relies upon the first process starting from town and country. So what we'll be looking to do in the various corporations is grant them more autonomy over the approval process, and we will build into that approval process, obviously, a consultation process. So when someone puts in an application, there must be a period for publication, where the public will be made aware, and as the Prime Minister said, the responsibility is now on all of the citizens or the burgesses to be paying attention. Because when that is published, you will now have a period of time within which to come forward and lodge objections, etc. And maybe, because we're at the embryonic stage, we will build into that there will be a quarterly process for a town hall meeting that takes place in some of the other jurisdictions around the world, where people can come forward and, on this specific day, you're going to be dealing with 10 applications, and burgesses or citizens can come forward and say what they have to say about the process, and then a decision will be made. But it will come down to legislation. We're going to decentralize it away from town and country planning and give more autonomy to the various corporations.
Thank you.
Let me just go down a little deeper. The question you really asked, which I thought I heard, was how will it work? You see, what's going to happen is that representation will become more frontal. The people at the council who direct the process of accepting or rejecting, they will be representing you. They are representatives. You would have ceded to them an authority to act on your behalf, to represent you. But when you come in person to take responsibility for your business, you will then be saying to them, I don't agree or I agree. They now will have to take that into account. When the position is taken to agree to do it, you must know, and you will know who would have voted for it. And when it is time to deal with the person who's voted for it, the voting record of the person and the behavior of the person who represented you, that's where your power lies. So your representatives will be cognizant of this representation and not being your master and not being the owner of your business. So when you come to the town hall like you come tonight and you say, this is something I object to, or we are seeing so-and-so, we see an application for so-and-so, and they respond to you, they will have to take into account how you feel about it. But of course, we agree to be governed by the position of the majority. So even if you object to it, and the majority wants it, well, you know that but on the other hand, we also agree to take cognizance of the views of the minority. Because sometimes the minority has to point out to the majority that we're going the wrong way. But it's done in the open. And it is that doing of it in the open that's going to lift us from where we are to where we want to go. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Earl.
Statement. While we're devolving power, it is not our intention to create 14 independent republics in Trinidad and Tobago, because there is still something called national development. That is the responsibility of the central government. And we will always have a national developmental agenda at that level. So both worlds have to live, in unison.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. All protocol observed. My name is Madan Singh. But I disagree with the gentleman before me. Where I live in San Fernando, the western and Hilo is most convenient to me. I don't have to come to San Fernando where the traffic is.
So right away we see that what's one man's poison is another man's drink. And this is where the community, you shouldn't be end up fighting one another and cutting one another's throat. But civilly, we determine how it benefits, who it benefits, and we're calling for civil conduct.
After listening to Minister Khan, I heard we were speaking about patterning the reform process similar to Tobago. Tobago has one hospital. Tobago deals with their own passport. In San Fernando, the people from Debe Pinal, the people from Princestown, they come to San Fernando for passport, see about their licensing office. Would they be given their own licensing office? Would they be given their own hospital? What happens? How you would share the kind of the costing like the hospital and so on? Because I live in San Fernando, and if I go to the hospital, I have to wait half day, and a fellow from Pinal Debe come and he get in, and we are the ones who. No, I mean, we have it wrong, but these are things I think we should consider and think about. Like
And that is where the national developmental perspective will have to exist. We're not here holding out to you that we're going to have 14 hospitals, one in every area. But the national government will look at the distribution of hospitals in the country and determine whether this hospital in San Fernando with its catchment area from somewhere in the southwest to the southeast, whether in fact it is providing the services and whether in fact there's need for another hospital, maybe in Penal, in Debe or somewhere, and that's you look at from a national perspective. Because understand, as great as San Fernando is, your lens is that big. There's somebody, another group, looking at it from the national perspective. And in many instances, what might serve the local need may not serve the national need. Let me give you an example. I went to Tobago once, the same Tobago I was talking about and holding out to you as some template. I went to Tobago once and I discovered that there was a move in Tobago to have some international business import garbage in Tobago to generate fuel and raw material for, and I said, not in my country. I am not, and I live in Diego Martin, I am not supporting anybody bringing any barge load of garbage to Tobago for any kind of business. And I was prepared to fight it from Diego Martin. So there are times when what somebody might see as a local perspective and good for us here, but from the national standpoint. And one calamity we had here was this aluminum smelter. The people of La Brea voted for it, but the national community was mobilized against it. And it didn't happen, for better or for worse. So we are here talking about how interests would be defended and how we will pattern ourselves to get the best of both worlds, national and local.
Because there's chaos at the licensing office and immigration office in San Fernando. So I think there's need for maybe more than one within this area.
And there might be a case for that.
Thank you very much.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. To the panel, the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley and the ministers. My name is Peter Kojo. I live in San Fernando East. And I listened to your manifesto on the hustings for political office. And the local government idea was put out then. I looked at it basically from what I heard on the platform and what was being proposed. I have two questions. One, for the last 5 years, Trinidad and Tobago has seen a great wealth in the country, and we don't know where that went. What checks and balances would be put in place under this new idea of local government being disseminated among the citizens to make sure that we get value for money? And two, is there an idea in that whole local government package that we can solicit the views and the energies of the young, bright citizens in the different municipalities, that we can look at things from a different perspective. In the case of health, in the case of national security, in the case of all those ministries that we spend billions of dollars education every year, that we tend to look at that from a different perspective, whereby we can have different ideas on the table that we can treat with and use as a catalyst for our development for the whole of Trinidad. The idea might come out at one local government forum or one local government institution, but then we can tap into that one idea and spread it throughout the country. What are we going to put in place so that we can really harness the energies of these communities and the checks and balances that would make sure that we do not squander the wealth?
As I said before, the consultation wouldn't end at the end of this year. We will continue to drill deeper down into the communities and engage young people, engage villages, engage communities. So this is an ongoing exercise. This is not just an exercise to draft legislation. It is consultation will become part of the PNM's DNA in government. With regards to accountability, we hope to have a unit in the Ministry of Finance that will monitor the financial and the expenditure and the accounting system that is in place. The regional corporation will still be subject to the Auditor General's review and the Auditor General's audits. And also we plan to open the Parliament, what we call an accounting office, which will monitor almost on an online basis expenditure coming from central government and from local government. So at the end of the day, there will be tighter fiscal control under this new system and what the Ministry of Local Government currently provides. Because the Ministry of Local Government doesn't provide fiscal control. It provides administrative and project control. And that is where there could still be leakages in the system. So under this new accounting system, through the Ministry of Finance, through the Auditor General, and through the Accounting Office of Parliament, I think we'll have tighter fiscal control and get better value for money and stop the wastage and hemorrhaging that took place over the last 5 years.
If I could just add briefly, I mean, this point about bringing the young people out, I'd like to throw out there that there's a responsibility on the young people to come and engage. It is not the government's responsibility. Every turn, we can't go in people's homes and bring them out and this type of thing. We're advertising it. This is the start of the process. We're going to the 14 different municipalities. Encourage the young people to come out. Encourage everyone to come out and make their contributions. And on that note, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a limited amount of time. So if we could just kind of get quickly to the question. I am tempted to put it to 30 seconds at the mic, but I wouldn't do that because it's a consultation process. But in going forward, let's be mindful that many people want to speak. So your turn, sir.
Respectful regards to all David Maulabach Vistabella. I am going to make reference to something that we could put our teeth on immediately. Right? At present, Trinidad and Tobago has the second highest carbon footprint in the world per capita. We have Point-a-Pier Refinery North. Marabella just mediated that with serious traffic flows, traffic congestion. Right? We have been lobbying, a group with myself, we have been lobbying for quite some time now to have the southern side of the Union Park facility developed as an eco park to redress the difficulty of quality of life issues that the Prime Minister has been raising and bringing to our attention. So we think that that's an easy project. We have no reason why that will take such a long time to do. We're just talking about the planting of trees. There are lots of retired people in the area. There are a lot of kids. People can assemble. They can participate. It's consistent with the policy, what is now the policy directive on the environment, to bring people closer to nature and to interact with nature. Right? So we really think that this is an immediate project that could be actualized in weeks. And we really look forward to the government acting on this issue. And on our Prime Minister, we expect to be looking at some cricket in June and Truba.
Some what?
We expect to be looking at cricket in Truba in June, sir.
Thank you. So,
as long as it's not West Indies cricket.
Yes, please. Yes. I hope all that paper in your hand is not a speech.
Yes, I am. No, it's different.
Sorry, excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder that we are being carried live on television and, of course, on Radio 91.1. And in the interest, again, of everyone having the opportunity to share with us, just how they feel about local government. And, of course, we know you're very passionate about the area in which we live, and we do appreciate it. But we also even greater appreciate everyone being able to have a chance. So, as Stuart mentioned, if we can keep it 30 seconds to 1 minute, that would be greatly appreciated. We do not want to be rude and cut anybody's time short. However, we would like to hear everyone's contribution. Thank you.
Before you start, let me just say something. The last speaker raised the question of the eco park and how we see it working. Already, I'm seeing the connections. I can tell him tonight that at the national level, the Ministry of Agriculture is taking steps to create at least 2 large nurseries to prepare the planting material so that corporations like yourself can have the planting material to do what you say should be done. Because if I say tonight, yes, go and plant in the area, you suddenly discover plant what? So we are, as part of the program of preparing to have local government discharge this kind of responsibility, we start with the nurseries and putting in place the planting material, and that is on the way.
Yes, I am emboldened by the Attorney General. We are speaking of Code of Conduct, Sets, Ethical Guide.
So your name, please.
Jean Bacchus, San Fernando West, my MP.
Okay, go on.
I live at Sogrim Street, Gulview, near to the community center, which it's on the ground. Sorry, it's not on the ground. It was on the ground. It has been thrown away. The center, the sign. I am the only person I have this sign. Here it has been thrown away. And there's a picture here of the truck. The truck, I believe it's the owner of the establishment. This was thrown down to the ground about 6 times and it's finally disappeared. Now, Ms. Regis, I have to come on to you. This corporation, Dr. Rowley, has been a corrupt corporation for the longest while. Let me read here. Sando City Corporation.
Wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. There's a time and place for everything.
Sir.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Tonight is not the night to go into your library of accusations of corruption. We are talking here tonight about the form and structure of local government, which may very well be addressing those things, but not in the way that you are proceeding with.
Okay, could I continue? I'm not reading something here from a lady.
No.
No, wait a minute. We don't have time for you to read your library. If you have something to say on the topic in front of us, try and say it.
Okay.
Local government, how do we change what exists as local government now, and what would you like to see it become? And if there are any problems you see, speak about that, but we can't go into your library
Okay,
tonight.
sir. My problem is, since 2009, I have a problem with my immediate neighbor. It has not been solved, and I'm asking.
This is not the forum for that.
But
okay, sir, if we can move on to the next contribution, please. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am, you proceed.
Hello, good night, everyone.
Hi,
I'm
good night.
Kathleen Mohammed.
We're not hearing you. Could we get the mic on the lady, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I must say good night to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, and Dr. Franklin Cannon, and the, I don't know his name.
Yeah,
okay.
Come straight to your point, because
Yeah.
we try to make the most of the time we have.
Come on, let's read. We just want to read topics. We're not going to talk on it. Okay?
Carry on,
Thank
carry
you.
on.
Yes, hello, good night. I'm Christopher Ramuta from San Fernando, Maribo. I just want to say the topics you want to discuss is really like about crime, housing, brawls at school, economy, HGC housing, carnival, what would cause a snappy election, Brian Lara Stadium, ban Crime Watch, ban the cupcake song. We would like to run up the youths, pensions and why it is taking so long, and cleaning video places to stop the crime, blue movies and children porn. And we have to run a survey on crime hotspots, and dropping oil prices, oil and gas prices is in trouble because
all right, I think
okay,
just to cut you across.
and rapid rail.
Yeah, for the record, this is not a consultation on everything. It is a consultation on local government reform. So,
I would like to see all birds and parrots set free.
Taking some guidance from what the Prime Minister just indicated.
Yes.
Let's focus on the local government.
Let's move on to the
reform.
other speaker.
Thanks.
Sir, you go ahead.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, silence, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Control your constituents.
My name is Stephen Braffett, and I'm from the Orupush East constituency. Right. Now, we are here talking about the reform in local government, which I really and truly advocate. I tell people this is a good thing. Movement taking from central government to local government, so that the budget, the corporation will be able to see about the area in which they represent. Right. So I all for that. Right. But here is my problem in my area. I am living at Union Hall, right? And I am in the constituency of Orupush East, which is the corporation, which is Penal Regional Corporation, and they are UNC. So the problem with me is that it's Union Hall, right? We, since from the last local government election, right,
we haven't seen the councillor in that area. Now, if we designate the corporation to say about the people in the area, that means the councillor is the first step that we will see about. Right now, in our area, that we have no representation because the councillor doesn't even come to the union hall, but they say there's a PNM area. My suggestion is that in areas like those, right, I would like to see that the government added.
But let me ask you a question. Based on how you put your problem, how you've raised your problem, and maybe how you live your problem. If that councillor comes to your district, how will you receive him or her? Would you respect him or her?
Of course, they are.
And then therefore it shouldn't matter after election day if the councillor is a PNM councillor or UNC councillor.
That is
the councillor for your district.
That is correct. That is correct, sir.
And therefore the problem cannot be solved by identifying the councillor's political affiliation and determine that circumscribes what's going to happen to you. That is what we're trying to put an end to.
Right, okay, so what I was just trying to get at is that to get representation in our area, right, it's kind of a difficult seeing the state of the situation. So what I am asking the local government, because when there is not the power of the local government to the regional corporation, then we in our area will have to go and state our problems, right? But if we're not seeing anybody, if we're not getting the representation, then we won't be able to do that. So,
but let me tell you what's not going to change. If you are in Penal DB Corporation, however the boundary is drawn, this reform that we're giving you here is not going to give you the right to say, well, you'll come to San Fernando for service because they don't like who's in charge in Penal, you know. You live in Penal, that is your corporation. Right? And what you'll do down there, you'll go to the Penal meeting like how you come here. And you talk to the Burgess, the council down there, because that is your corporation. You see, I get the impression that you don't think it's your corporation.
It's not a matter of I don't think it's my corporation, it's that we're not getting the representation when we ask.
And that might change when you accept it as your corporation and go and respectfully speak to them about their servicing of your area.
Okay, I agree with that. I'll take that. So I will know next time that we'll go straight.
These are the changes that are going to come. Yeah. You might have friends in San Fernando and political affiliates, but you live in Penal DB.
But we also, with that in mind, and I'm glad you say that because we also have a next problem with that. Because when we, from Union Hall, goes to Penal Regional Corporation for anything to do in their area, they say that they are not responsible for our area. They say that we are responsible for San Fernando.
They can't say that. If you're in Penal DB, you're in Penal DB.
You should know where the boundary is.
I know where the boundary
and
is.
Anybody
and you know who you voted for?
What they say is that the agency hasn't handed over responsibility to them as yet. This is their
that's the HDC issue.
Well, that might
that's
be a different issue.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with PNM or UNC.
That
is the state agency may not have passed the responsibility for your subdivision to the local corporation. The same thing might happen in Diego Martin, you know, and in Aruka. So don't take it personal and political. Right?
Yep.
The HDC is where you should be looking to say, why have you not done that? And of course, you, the citizen, there are a number of places now, a place called Facebook. Put the HDC there.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm joking on that. But you know, you have to assert yourself. You have to identify who's responsible. Because what this reform is doing is bringing greater focus on identifying who is responsible for what. Because unless you can hold people accountable, then we will develop all kinds of nuances and suspicions, and eventually become our own worst enemies in describing our own lives.
Okay, I think we've successfully answered that question. I just want to remind everyone as well that should you have a question, a lengthy one, and of course a young lady who had a laundry list of issues, there is an email address to which you can address your concerns. It's localgovsec@gov.tt. I'll repeat that, localgovsec@gov.tt. And of course, again, in the interest of time, should you have such a detailed question that requires a detailed answer, we do encourage you to reach out to us via that medium. We'll take the next question now.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister and Ministers, Orville Woolsey, born just over the hill in the old Colonial Hospital, grew up in San Fernando, educated in San Fernando, and I see Forrest watching me. He went to school with my son also. And the local government issue that I'm still in education. I am on the board of the Open Bible High School, and we are having some problems there with the land slippage. But that is not what I am coming to talk about tonight. I'm talking about health issues. We have Monrepo, Vista Bella, different health centers. Roy Joseph. If you live in Monrepo, as my brother did, and then he moved to Pleasantville, he's in another health center, and you can't get proper health care. If you're sick, you have to go. Now, this is what I want to find out. When we come to the local area, how do we handle it with the RHAs and that, I don't want to call a name that is impolitic, that teaching hospital, because I was a teacher and I don't think that's a teaching hospital. How do we deal with that as a local government issue? Because when he moved to Monrepo, to Pleasantville, the people in Monrepo said, Roy Joseph Health Center said they couldn't visit him over there. That is in the same district. Marabella is a different thing. How are we going to deal with all of these divisions in the healthcare in this one area in San Fernando?
Well, the Ministry of Health will still be responsible for dispensing health.
Yes.
Healthcare delivery to all citizens will still remain the responsibility of the Ministry of Health. How it is discharged in context of the existence of other structures beneath the ministry, details that I can't answer you tonight, but there will be a Ministry of Health, there will be health centers, there will be hospitals, and there will be a requirement for the local corporation to determine whether or not you are getting proper health care. So these are matters that will work themselves through as the new structures are put in place, but the responsibilities will still be defined as Ministry of Health, local government, Ministry of Works, Ministry of National Security, but what they do for you through your corporation is what we're aiming to streamline here.
Well, this is why I wanted to bring it up, because I
Yes,
see a
you brought it up.
mismatch.
We've heard you,
Mismatch.
and we take the point.
Thank you.
Hi, good night. My name is Arlene Nisus. I'm a registered nurse at San Fernando General Hospital.
The gentleman talking to you.
I just want to, I have a suggestion that we have a project where we teach families how to do CPR, first aid, and to recognize stroke and, you know, these kind of incidents, so that when they come to the, there's a greater opportunity for survival, and that when they come to the accident and emergency department, it's
They would have
better.
provided
Yeah,
first response.
they can be better and not have to wait however long for an ambulance. You know, give them the power. That's it.
Thank you.
Good night, Jennifer Marisho, former councillor, San Fernando West. I have one question and one suggestion. My question is, what will be the role and function of the administration of each corporation after local government reform? I ask this because of past experience, that most of the times you find that the administration is more political than the councillors. That's why we never used to get anything done, really, because you find because of political affiliation, they will not do certain things to make you look good in your area. Secondly, my suggestion is, while Dr. Rowley spoke about MPs having a relationship with the councillors, I agree with that, Mr. Prime Minister. I would like to go further to state that maybe sometimes in legislative meetings that councillors could have proper dialogue and should be in contact directly with MPs or ministers, so that councillors are usually the ones on the ground who has a first hand of everything that happens within their community. So probably we could look at councillors having direct contact with the ministers, so that we can ask, you know, councillors can go to ministers and ask, you know, for certain privilege, you know, to assist one of their constituents. So in that way, things could speed up. rather than, sometimes people going to the hospital and having problems staying long, you could call your Minister of Health and speak with him to ask assistance for the people who live in your area. So that is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. I will have to run off after these final comments coming from me. But as we embark upon this exercise, we have to be careful that in wanting to do all these great things, that we don't give life to the creation of the camel that was designed by a committee that set out to make a horse. It is said that a camel is a horse designed by a committee. So we have to be careful that we don't create something that does not have the opportunity to at least give us a good chance to realize our objectives. If we begin to cross-pollinate too much, we are certainly going to end up there. So what we want to do is to give local government that stature, that recognition, the resources, the responsibility, and the opportunity to demonstrate that people in local government can take part in and discharge public administration to the benefit of the public. And we don't want here to be talking about merging MPs and local government, because at the end of the day, whether it's local government or central government, good public administration through public servants is what is going to make it work. You can't bypass the public service. So whatever we design coming up here, and answer to your question, we don't know yet. We're now working on, what we do know is that what exists now will be enhanced. How far? We're working on it. But when we do decide what we're going to do, it's predicated on the fact that there is going to be proper public service arrangements. And the comment that the lady made about the public servants who are more political than the politicians, that ought not to be tolerated. And in the new structure, the light of transparency and openness is what's going to deal with that. And that's why I said to you earlier on, you, the citizens of the city of San Fernando, not Burgesses, the citizens of San Fernando, you will have to get involved in seeing what goes on in your area. You can't have public servants being political and more political than than politicians, because then you have problems. People have responsibility. Public servants are public servants and they're protected by law, but they have responsibilities. Politicians have certain kinds of ambit within the operate, identify them for who they are and keep them separate and apart. And finally, I want to say this. We have a habit in Trinidad and Tobago of wanting the best of all worlds and not getting it for good reason in many instances, is that we do not like to subject ourselves to rules and regulations. Whether it's the traffic laws, the building laws, the whatever, as a nation, we have culturally developed as a lawless society. These aspirations are not going to succeed unless the laws and regulations are made to apply and apply firmly and that there is enforcement. And I tell you this, let me give you an example. I was Minister of Planning and Development, and a neighbor was complaining about another neighbor who had built a house right up to the boundary line. The roof of one house had reached the boundary line of another property, against all regulations. But this person had done it. And the complaining family came to Town and Country and made a formal complaint. And the Town and Country Department decided to demand that the offending property be dealt with so that people will get relief. And they refused to comply. And the matter was taken to the court. I'm not sure how it got to the court, and I think it went to court because the person who built the building felt that they were being harassed. And the argument in the court was, well, all other people violate Town and Country Act. Why are you attacking me? That was the argument. Question is, where and when do you start to enforce the regulations? And if I'm not mistaken, I think they won the case. So against that kind, I tell you this so you can understand the challenges we're going to face. But of course, you know, if those two people, especially the one who built the house, landed in Florida, they would know exactly how to behave. They would know exactly what laws will apply. In fact, they wouldn't do it at all. So as we move towards creating an environment for improvement in quality of life, we have also to look at this whole question of an agreement to comply with the rules and regulations and to have the appropriate enforcement when there are infractions, especially at local government. Local government enforcement is too lax. People do what they want, and even when you have legislation to protect others from the behavior of some people, there is no enforcement. And it may have to do with the court system, where you go to court and of course your grandson will see the end of the case, or it may cost you an arm and a leg. We need to make those things simpler so that where complaints are, they can be dealt with appropriately, and that will be better for all of us. So these are the challenges that we face as we go forward. But I'm still excited about the prospect. And I want to ask you now to excuse me, I'm leaving a handful of ministers here with you. Attorney General, who I think MP for San Fernando West, eh? Minister in the Office of the Attorney General, Member of Parliament for San Fernando East, who is in fact the Minister of Public Administration. We have a former Minister of Local Government here with us. We have some senators, we have Chairman of Corporation, we have the Minister for Rural Government and Local Government. So you have a good listening panel here. And of course, you have the Minister of Planning and Development and the Mayor. So continue the discussion, and I look forward to the whole process continuing, and we will do this to a successful end. Thank you very much for listening to me, and continue. Please.
As Dr. Rowley makes his way out of the hall, let me formally thank him for joining us today in this consultation. And I want to give the audience the assurance that this local government process has buy-in at the very top. And so we are very, very happy in that regard. So we have approximately half an hour, again, 25 minutes to field further questions. And Minister Young and myself will attempt to pattern Dr. Rowley's answers.
Hi. Hi, pleasant night. My name is Alana Rodney.
Okay.
I am one of 50 persons who received a scholarship from the Ministry of Local Government in collaboration with COSTAT. Now, it was a 2-year program. We ended in August. We graduated in November. To date, we haven't received word as to how exactly we would be incorporated in the different regional and city corporations. And my question goes out to you, Mr. Franklin Khan. In what way does local government reform? How would this impact on us? And could you shed some light as to when would we be employed as public health inspectors?
Your scholarship was in public health?
Yes, well, environmental health.
Well, what we are saying is that the Ministry of Local Government will be retired, okay, which means that it will be morphed into a Ministry of Rural Development, which will be mandated to take charge of the rural developmental infrastructure and planning in Trinidad and Tobago. All the responsibilities, or a significant part of the responsibilities now carried out by the Ministry of Local Government will be devolved to the regional corporation. So when that process is completed, you all will be fit in. There will be so much more vacancies for employment in those 14 restructured regional corporations. It is the only area of growth, as I speak, that I see in the governmental process in the next 2 years. And significant growth. So you will be well taken care of. As specific as to where you will be assigned, obviously I cannot say at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Khan and Minister Young. Leslie Lynch is the name. I am the Vice President of Coquille Village and Community Councils, now acting President.
former councillor here for 14 years. I was the one-vote man.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing about it is this. I am in full support of the local government reform. I have been involved in local government, and since 1976, I have documents from Cotty Joseph, when Mr. Cuthbert Joseph, the Honorable Cuthbert Joseph, was minister in the ministry at that time. Coming right up, I have been involved in the processes of local government. And I'm asking, I know that you came and you did a presentation, a well-done presentation. The thing about it is that it had so much information that we were not in a position to be able to absorb all that information at one time. So I'm asking, when can we or would we be able to get maybe a flash drive or some stick or something of that presentation, maybe go online and get it?
Yeah.
And secondly, the boundaries, I have interest in the boundaries and the legal aspect. I am of the opinion that we need to look at the boundaries, and we also need to look at the legislation as it pertained to the boundaries and even the implementation of the whole program. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Minister Young will deal with some of the legislative aspect of the boundary changes, but suffice it to say that we have a website created for this local government reform process, and everything that has been said by me in particular will be posted there for your viewing and for your retrieval. Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Just one more thing with the boundaries. That is a very sensitive matter. A lot of work has been done on boundary reconfiguration. We in the consultation process that will guide us at the end of the day as to whether we'll keep 14, change it to 12, change it to 10, put it to 16, and the legislation will be so drafted. However, I want to make the point, and it's a point I like to make. Since the Municipal Corporation Act was passed in 1990, disbanding the county council system, the Ministry of Education, as we speak, still have St. Patrick Division and Victoria Division and St. George East. Even the Ministry of Works has St. George East in Arima and St. George West in Samoa. Okay? And they still have Caroni and things. So the whole country doesn't move in unison and in sync when we make these legislative changes. So that is where the cross-wiring of the system takes place. So we speak about municipal corporation. In law, the county councils no longer exist, you know, but yet they are an agency of government. The Ministry of Works, the Ministry of Education in particular, still have their administrative structure, structured of the lines along the old county council system. So these are issues we will have to face, but my main concern and our major concern in the transformation process is that we want to have coherent entities that will be in charge of governance. Sorry. Because, for example, we have to deal with a matrix of population density as regards geographic space. The two largest corporations in Trinidad geographically is Sandy Grande and Mayaro Rio Claro. But yet, they are the most sparsely populated. So if you use population density, somebody will come and tell me, and I will run them, merge Sandy Grande and Mayaro. And Sandy Grande and Mayaro is almost 1/3 of the island space of Trinidad and Tobago. Obviously, that is impossible to do. Arima is 4 square miles. Okay? And even the allocation of resources, how can you give Arima with 4 square miles of largely urban space the same allocation for roads and bridges as Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, which comes from Matlot to Valencia and way into Kokal and the Coconut before Mayaro. So these are some of the issues that we face, because there will be a cry for equity, you know. There will be a cry for equity because everybody now will come to the powers that be and say, we want equal treatment. Whatever that means, we'll have to cross that hurdle. But these are some of the challenges that we will face in this reform process, but we are cognizant of it, and what we will do, we will handle it with a fair hand, and we will build the matrix that could be transparent to the national population as to what basis we take our decisions. Okay?
Just briefly to add to it, when it comes, you say you have a wealth of experience, 14 years you mentioned, and this goes out to the wider population and all those following, every citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, anybody who has a contribution to make to this process, You can write us, you can send it via the email and other means. We will be taking everything on board. That's what the consultation is about. Ultimately, we will have to make policy decisions, take decisions, and implement the decisions. But we certainly welcome. So if there are legislative amendments, changes you'd like to suggest, please feel free to get it to us. Mr. Regrello.
Junior Regrello. I'm involved with civil society groups, steel band fraternity, political organization, not necessarily in that order. However, in terms of the Tobago model as applied to San Fernando, there's a dichotomy between Tobago and San Fernando. How do we address the demographics, the geographical issues, the challenges we will have in San Fernando? Would it be a one-cut-fit-all policy as the Act of 1991, or it will vary from municipal corporation to corporation? That's the first point. The second point is that we are no longer the energy city, we're no longer the industrial capital. So we have to look for new areas for economic development and sustainable growth. And I would like to suggest that we look at institutions, Banlara Stadium, the South Napa, Skinner Park, for example, for development, for that sustainable development and for growth. And in order for us to do that, we will need to be assisted now as opposed to when we get to that point. Skinner Park has tremendous potential. As a matter of fact, way back in 2004, feasibility study was done, and Bino had done a draft on a design, which at the time cost about $71 million to refurbish, which gave us a three-tier seating accommodation. Again, that could generate revenue. So before we move to step two, I think that step one should be allow us to grow and make some investment into these infrastructure issues. And my last point has to do with Carnival. We allocated a positive $1.3 million to run a Carnival. And as you may know by now, people are gravitating to San Fernando. San Fernando has tremendous potential. Port of Spain is bursting in its seam. We are the next best place to enjoy Carnival in Trinidad. And 1.3 just certainly cannot cut it. Will we be at the mercy of NCC at that period, waiting on that paltry allocation, or will we be given sufficient funding to run our Carnival? At the stand right now, we are owing, we can't even pay this year, pay stakeholders for Carnival competition of 2015. So I will suggest that when we get to that stage, that places like South Napa and those institutions will be controlled by the corporation as opposed to the ministry. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your contribution, and we will get to your answer. However, we do need to conclude the broadcast portion of this evening's event. I would like to thank the viewing audience at home who are watching us on CNMG, as well as those online on our YouTube channel at TT Local Matters. I'd like to formally thank Minister Khan, who was, of course, the host, the line minister of this wonderful event. And we look forward to seeing you, Minister Khan, at all 13 consultations. Minister Young, thank you again for your contribution. Of course, we will allow you all to, continue fielding our questions. I'd like to formally apologize to you for the informalities of earlier this evening, Minister Young.
Absolutely no need to.
And again, we just want to thank everyone for coming out. We know there are a lot of people outside who are still teeming in, to be perfectly honest, and waiting to field their questions. And we will have a chance to get to you. However, again, this is the end of the live broadcast. Thank you again, the viewing audience on CNMG, as well as the listening audience at 91.1. Please be reminded that, of course, you can communicate with us on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag TTLocalMatters. Those of you more inclined to email, please email all of your questions, concerns, comments to localgovsec@gov.tt. I'll repeat that, localgovsec@gov.tt. You are also invited to deliver any of the feedback forms, either at the ushers at the door, or you can drop them at your MP's offices, your councillors' offices. And again, thank you for your feedback and contributions. This is the end of the broadcast. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
We just have about 10 minutes to go. so to speak. Okay, so I just want to caution people who are getting in that mood.
Thank you, Minister. Just as a note to the members of the audience that are here with us, we will be fielding questions until 9 p.m., at the end of which, of course, we do need to wrap up totally. So if you can once again keep your questions brief, because I'm sure the two ministers would love to answer your questions, but we do have to end at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Sir. Good evening, fellow ministers and all citizens of San Fernando City, the San Fernando City. I have simple questions. My name is Fabrice Ellis and I'm from Marabella. Alternative sources of energy, is that being considered as part of our backup plan, so to speak, for economy in terms of employment, in terms of additional income? And can and will the corporations or the local government, so to speak, be incorporated into such planning? Another question I have, in terms of the employment or the brain drain that our country is facing currently and significantly growing, would schools, colleges, tertiary education levels, would they be consulted in terms of supplying the demand that is needed right now for qualified and experienced personnel?
The first point you made was what again?
It's about renewable energy.
Renewable energy, yes.
Policy is
One of the problems we faced as a carbon energy state was that we had an abundance of gas, and that abundance of gas transposed itself into cheap electricity and cheap gasoline and power. And that put us in a bind where, based on that price structure for traditional energy sources, that we were sort of handicapped on pursuing alternative energy, because alternative energy comes at a cost. So for example, CNG, the conversion to CNG is slow. And the reason for the conversion to CNG is slow is because people will never convert to CNG once diesel remains at $1.50 TT per liter. True. So what we are saying now is that, you heard the Minister of Energy speak recently, and she was saying that we are committed to 10% renewable energies by 2017. So that is a step in the right direction. Obviously, the world is going, you heard the Paris conference there on climate change and global warming. Trinidad now has to take a conscious effort to move towards sustainable and energy sources, okay? And the second point was on the consulting the schools and with the jobs. Obviously, as we speak, we are relooking at the GATE program in its entirety, because what GATE has done is just churn out graduates lavish. I mean, you're just going to study anything, you understand? Irrespective of whether there's a job market for it, and there's a proliferation of tertiary education institutions that has mushroomed because of that, but with no nexus as to what the economy wants and what the state wants. So obviously we will have to rationalize that, and the Minister of Education is currently working on that.
Just to add, it is now government policy because it was in our manifesto that we intend to implement the renewable energy. So corporations will look at that as their own decisions moving forward. Right.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am?
Good night to the panel, good night to the distinguished guests, good night to the rest of the audience. Today, down in San Fernando, Kathy and Lindsay of Grand Cooper and a community group, Fraser Road Grand Cooper Residents Association. Right, today we approach the Ombudsman.
You have to talk a little closer to Mike.
Today we approach the Ombudsman, and because we have taken our regional cooperation to lengths with respect to the infrastructure in our area, which is sorely lacking. We have, from 2012, we have approached the councillor, the chairman, we have approached the member of parliament, and even the local government minister of the previous administration, and we have basically gotten no redress. So we have approached the ombudsman, and I am looking at this local government reform, and I'm wondering what would citizens would be able to go to persons to address situations where you're not having any kind of feedback at all from the regional corporation at all, especially now that if it is going to devolve the powers that be. Second thing, you did sort of address the fact that with respect to the regional corporations and the equity of subdividing the resources, etc. Because in our regional corporation, it is large geographically. The number of probably persons may not be that amount, but we do have a lot of problems, especially with landslips and roads. So that could be a consideration. But lastly, I have been to a number of local government consultations, at least 2 in the previous administration. And what you find is that many a times there's a lot of documentation. I know for a fact in 2010, there was a documentation done on local government reform. There's documentation available. And to me, I hope it's not that you're reinventing the wheel and using some of that has been, because it's very good. And it did look in a lot of detail with respect to each regional corporation and as well as the, so, right, I would like to, thank you.
Phase, because that's what the population expects. But we have tapped deep into the resource base of the previous reports, and which the committee is using extensively. And just, if you're from Vancouver, there is another part of this ministry after the Ministry of Local Government closes. It is our intention to build the Ministry of Rural Development into one of the more prominent ministries in Trinidad and Tobago, because there is an infrastructural deficit in rural communities which we plan to address in a significant way.
Sir.
We will have two more questions, or 3 more as the case may be.
A pleasant good evening, everyone. My name is Nikolai Edwards. I am
A little closer.
sorry. A pleasant good evening, everyone. My name is Nikolai Edwards. I am the Vice Chairperson, Policy and Advocacy of the Commonwealth Youth Council. I'm also the Secretary of the UE Guild of Students, and I do a lot of other youth work in Trinidad and Tobago. So therefore, my contribution is related to youth. I do believe that in Trinidad and Tobago, we do not treat young people in the best of ways in this country. We have a perception of young people that they're heavily involved in criminal activity and that they're more or less good for nothing. I do believe that at the local government level, we have a prime opportunity to put young people in positions where they can be the change agents that are required in this country.
Nikolai, let me just cut you across there. The last local government election, there is a vast majority of elected councillors who are young people.
Yes.
So I do think, so for local government reform, that has already been implemented. We have a massive amount of youth participating. You're seeing it as well in the general election concept and then etc. So I do think it's fair to say that the youth aren't being properly represented. That was a policy decision by Dr. Rowley that has been implemented at the local government level.
And having said that, if you listen to my presentation, I said most of the new staffing at the level of the regional corporation will come from young skill sets and modern skill sets. New degrees that have been put forward now by the UTT and UWI.
Granted. Yes, I do agree. But what I would like to contribute here is in terms of another opportunity that young people could play in terms of local government, more or less in tandem with what is already being presented. We have more or less a need for young people to receive employment. Yes, in terms of actually running for councillors and actually being a part of the staffing. But also I want us to consider internships at the point of not necessarily having to leave university with a degree, but you have young people having internships in the local government sector because persons are studying governance and other mechanisms. We need to as well do more research at the local government level. We can't wait just for the Central Statistical Office every time it comes around to conduct surveys. We need to be able at the local government level to go into communities, find out what are some of their needs, transcribe that, and make that readily available. The website for the Ministry of Local Government, it isn't as user-friendly as is necessary. Young people need to understand what is local government, how they can benefit from it, and how they could also aid in that. Not necessarily wait for government to do something, but for them to be able to rise up to the occasion. So
Thanks
that's
a lot.
my contribution.
A pleasant good night to the panel. My name is Phyllis Brooks, and my representative is right in front there, Mr. Faris Alwari.
It seems like he stacked the whole crowd tonight against Mr. Mitchell.
And I want to say, concerning where I live, the environment is always clean. They are always tidying it, and I want to say, to the workers. Now, Mr. Kanye said that one of the responsibilities will be maintenance of schools. And with that maintenance includes security, especially in times like these. And will you have enough revenue to do all that you want to do in the local government? And if you do not have enough, what will you do in order to get more revenue? That's my first point. The second point is, the mayor said, all of us working for one another. And I feel that with this local government, if somebody is put, in different areas to look at some of the things that need addressing, like simple leaks, simple holes when people do something to the road, and they leave holes where people can be damaged, and like light poles, especially right now by on Coffee Street. To me, there's a light pole there by Skiffle Bunch. I don't know if that's going to fall, if anybody going to bounce that, and if that will fall. Simple things like those. If you could have somebody, because we are in this together, let them make sure that when you see things like these, report it, especially water, where we have a problem for water, and you see a lot of leaks all over the place. Now, when I see leaks, I will call, and you'll have to, when you call them, you have to tell them the pole number and whatever, so I try to get all that information. But I am saying, if you put somebody responsible, some of these things could be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for your contribution. We have to close off at 9. It's now 2 minutes after 9. So I would suggest, I don't want to blank anybody, but
Yes.
we have to take two more questions only.
All right, we have 3 people there, Minister.
All right,
Just
3
suggest
people,
that you
all
all
right.
have 30 seconds.
Yeah, 3 people, and we'll close off at that, at the end of that. So, you
yeah,
go
go ahead.
first, and the 2 guys at the...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. My name is Salem Gould, Chairman of the San Fernando Fishing Cooperative Society Limited. In the beginning of the meeting, I heard the mayor say he had specially invited the people from the Scout House and the market.
Invited a number of interest groups.
Yes, and he did not invite the fishing community. What I will say is that if this government have intentions of doing any development on San Fernando, they will need the organization, like Mr. Khan had said, the Honorable Minister, that we have an organization down there, and I think that it should be invited just like all the other organizations. We had attempt to develop King's Wharf in the past 20 years by 4 different governments, and there was failure because of these same system. I would like to just inform, I wouldn't ask no question whether you want to develop or not. I will not ask any question, but I will just inform you that there is an organization. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you
Duly
very
noted,
much.
and I'm sure it was an oversight on the mayor's part if he didn't invite you all, but I know he did in fact try to engage as much NGOs and
but the point is,
community
we're
groups
glad
as
you're here
possible.
anyway.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
so thanks a lot. Yeah. 2 more.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, we do have a member of the disabled community, and we would like to ensure that she does have her say, and of course, we'll field your question right after.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good evening to the ministers.
Good evening.
And all the members of the party, and a pleasant good evening to everyone else. My name is Barbara Sabrati. I am a born San Fernandian. I live in Coquille Village. I used to live in Arima before. My last name is Springer. I am a senior citizen that has been trying for the last 10 years or more to get Coquille Village clean up. I live in a rat-infested area of my neighbors, water coming from the back building of Bordercom, and my house is now cracking, and I cannot get any kind of relief. And I am asking the question, why do citizens of this country who have worked hard I helped develop a reamer on the dump road, and now in front of my house is infested with old iron dump that I can't even get my house on a reamer cell. And now I have water coming from border come, and the drain in the back of my house is infested with rats. The water cannot run. And I have been going to the town hall for over 8 years.
Okay, ma'am, we'll just allow the ministers to answer your question.
I would like to get some kind of
That's a specific issue. Whosoever the councillor is for that area, if they are here today, I want you to take a personal interest in the lady's contribution. And I would even suggest as tomorrow, make a side visit there and see if you can bring some relief to her case.
Sir. All right, ma'am, we're gonna have somebody visit. Sir.
Okay, sir, you're next, please.
Yeah, please.
Very well, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eugene Bass. I live San Fernando East. My representative is Mr. Mitchell. 2 quick points. The late, great Dr. J.D. Elder, one of the founding fathers of Best Village, which we know as community development, may be turning in his grave, because since the names have been changed from community centers to regional complex, it's very complex to get it for what it was officially designed for. It's more regional businesses. And because the youths are unable to use it, I'm a music instructor, and because a lot of youths are unable to get it to do anything, it has augmented the spiraling of criminal activity in some of the areas. Second point, the Prime Minister mentioned about community policing or policing in the municipalities. We need to have something in our community other than having to go to Port of Spain to the PCA. And one suggestion, I would like to pass this through Mr. Young. Mr. Young, whenever people are recruited into the protective services, we see the advertisement where they're asking for anonymous information, which will be held confidentially. Too often, I'm a former member of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services. Too often, we see people climb the ladder and they keep skipping over all their indiscretions. And I am saying, whenever a staff report is to be made out before promotion, they should also have whistleblowers, and I know the legislation hasn't passed as yet, but people to give the information so that these people will not be able to climb over what they are doing. That is some of the results the gentleman was speaking about. The young people who we bash are a reflection of our behavior. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thanks very much. Final answer, and we'll close off after that.
Mr. Minister, Dr. Anthony Elias, I had quite a few questions when I came here tonight, but I think a lot of it that has been explained. My concern, however, is that seeing the response of the people who were here tonight, I'm not convinced that you guys will be able to accomplish this holding just 14 meetings in 14 different areas. Because one of the things that I think is most important is to come back and educate, whether it's yourself or whether through other parties, so that people can understand what the changes are going to be after everything has been drawn up. So I'd like to suggest you look at that, and if time permits, you may have to come back again into San Fernando or other areas, okay? I'm just going to use the opportunity for one thing here. You know, I was a little concerned early on when Minister Khan pointed out about the city would be responsible for the health centers. And I said, my God, we have the RHAs, we have the Ministry of Health, and now we're throwing things in the city.
I didn't say
it was on your chart. On your chart, yes, you did, right. But I think the Prime Minister said there will be a thing. There are those of us in San Fernando who have mixed views about the teaching hospital. And I just want to use this opportunity as I have the Minister of Planning. I don't have the Minister of Health here. I have all of you all. You know, as a proud San Fernandian, I have lived through from people like Noor Hassan Ali to my former desk mate, President Carmona, having ascended from San Fernando to a high position in the country, including Mr. Manning as Prime Minister. I would just like to throw a suggestion here. It's not local, but I'd like to throw a suggestion. That teaching hospital, the most apt name for it should be after a San Fernandian who has really achieved, Dr. Teo Poon King. I think we need to recognize somebody like that in this country and not wait until the man dies. Okay, so it's just something I'm throwing out that we should consider. But again, I just want to reiterate as I wrap up, I think you're going to need to come back again in some form or fashion. Okay, because a lot of people would have things to say here tonight that they've not been able to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we had a wonderful session today. I think we started on the right foot. Again, let me formally thank the Honorable Prime Minister for gracing us with his presence. As I said, this local government reform process has buy-in from the very top. This incarnation of local government reform and how we plan to implement it has largely been his brainchild. I mean, in this new phase of engagement. And he really is totally seized of the matter, and he pays personal attention to it. He speaks to me literally once per week and asks me how it is going. So I know he's very much behind it. And there's a saying, once there's buying from the highest level of leadership, projects will in fact be implemented successfully. So once again, I think San Fernando has set the stage for all of Trinidad and Tobago. You have been a leader in this regard. And I want to thank you all sincerely on behalf of Minister Stuart Young, who is my colleague here on the panel, Dr. Rowley, the members of staff at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, and in fact the technical committee that has been mandated to champion this reform process. On behalf of all of us, I want to sincerely thank the people of San Fernando in particular and all other visitors for gracing us with your presence, making your contribution, and everything that you have said has been duly recorded and will be considered in all its seriousness. Once again, thank you very much and have a safe trip back home.